Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable, folks. What do you think of the new music? That was a surprise for me. I didn't even know that I knew we were working on it. I didn't know it was already done. So, got a couple surprises tonight. Black Eye's healing. That's good. Now it's yellow. Now I look like I have jaundice or whatever. So, whatever. So many things going on. I can't keep track of it all. And here's the thing, folks. We're going to be on YouTube. And everybody that's over there listening to us on Spotify and they're upset because we're not doing Spotify anymore. Oh, my gosh. Oh, excuse me. Man, we changed the filters out here. It's bad. Or it was. Thank you for the donations, Paul Deal and Chris Clough. Appreciate it. Chris, very good guy. Paul, you are too. Chris, always making memes to make fun of me in a playful way. That's cool. He's always over there on the Josh Turner fan page, which I didn't create. Okay, I'm not an egomaniac. Like everybody's always like, he's got his own fan page. I didn't make that. Okay, it's beyond me why anybody would be a fan of me. I don't know. You know, maybe if I was your warlord leader or something, then I could see you follow me. Otherwise, why? I mean, you know, I'm just kidding, folks. I'm just joking. I'm great. Honestly, I am. I'm very humble too. That's another one of my many attributes. Not to pat myself on the back, but you know, it is what it is. You got to give credit where credit is due. You know, right?
I mean, obviously.
Right? Yeah.
It's expected.
Yeah. So, folks, we have a show tonight. It's going to be awesome. I really think it will be really mind-blowing. There's some crazy stuff we got to talk about. But first, Paranormal Roundtable we have a group on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We have patreon.com/PRT podcast. You can join Patreon. If you do, just join $20 and you get a swag bag with some nice Paranormal Roundtable gear like this beautiful shirt. Or you can pan to them and show them your hat, Zane. See what you got there. See? He's going to pan. Well, he's going to pan over at some point.
It's my mistake.
There he goes. The flogging shall begin. See the Paranormal Roundtable gear? They got the white shirts. And we have some that are coming out with black and silver that look kind of like the Raiders. Is pretty cool. I think it looks kind of cool. But it's not mimicking them because I'm not a Raiders fan. But anyways, that's what's going on. We got all kinds of swag. And so if you're a $10 tier, after 3 months, you will get a swag bag. $20 tier, it's automatic. And even if you just do it for a month, you'll get it. So it helps with us, with the promotions. It helps with everything. So yeah, here's the thing. I got a really angry message from someone the other day, and they said, you know what? I went all the way to episode 175, and you're off of Spotify, and it was like the end of the world. And this person's world caved in, so they drove their Buick off of a cliff or something like that. They lived, fortunately, because they were wearing an asbestos suit that kept them alive. I'm joking. Obviously, I made all that up, except for the part about the asbestos suit and the cliff and the Buick. What happened was that person was so angry that we were no longer on these other platforms, and I said they weren't paying us correctly. And people come up with every excuse why they can't listen to the YouTube. Well, I'm driving from here to Denmark, and I can't, and once I get into the submarine, YouTube makes my ears explode. It's...
Well, that seems like a valid excuse.
I mean, and it's some of the most ridiculous stuff that you've ever imagined. Like, it's like, I was listening to YouTube and my wife's ears just fell off and my tongue and roaches came out of my eyes. It was bad. I can't do YouTube. Oh my God, YouTube. But Spotify is awesome. I can do some Spotify. If you have any more of that Spotify. And some of these people like crack with that Spotify. They're like, got any more of that Spotify? I need some. I can't eat all of it. I'll try. It's like these people, I don't know what it is with the Spotify. That and then an Apple, Tune, Google, whatever they are, these other ones. What you can do, though, is tell them to pay us correctly. If you got a certain number of people on there, you should be getting paid. I've talked to musicians who have hundreds of thousands of people, and they don't get paid correctly. So now I'm going to have to figure out how these people are getting paid correctly because I couldn't get it done. And maybe it's just me and my team's ignorance or whatever, but I've talked to multiple people who've had this problem. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can talk to these people over there. I doubt it. There'll probably be a robot. You'll probably get options like, to talk to a person. Nothing. Talk to me, the robot. Press any number.
Well,
And
maybe
it's going
we
to
could
happen like
just,
that, like that with everything now.
email Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan can speak to on our behalf.
Yeah.
Young Jamie.
That's probably about as good as we'll get.
Jamie.
Well, the other thing too, like everything has become automated.
Yeah.
Even going to get a drink the other day, a friend of mine said he was up in Ohio, and he went to get a soda. It happened to us earlier because it was a human that made the error. But the robots apparently are getting high too because they don't know what the heck's going on.
Right.
They're like, "Did you say Sprite?" No. I want a Dr. Pepper. Did you say Coke? No. Dr. Pepper. Initiating sequence, and then they pour some orange drink into your cup. Now, is this robot just being a butthole, or is Skynet taking over? What? So I'm sitting there going, like, really? That really happened to you? He said, yeah, it was horrible. It was the worst service he ever had, next to the millennials that worked there. So you pick your poison. You go with the Terminators, or do you go with the millennials? Either way, it's certain death. And you're not going to get your combo. And your combo is going to cost $15. No bull. Anthony, are you mic'd up? Of course. We have 4 mics, but why use them? Anyway, Anthony could tell you he had an experience earlier. How much was your combo for a chicken sandwich?
It was $14.
$14.82.
Yeah, and then the guy, okay, this is what made me really mad. Okay, and it's a small thing, but it's like people will have a tendency of taking something small and making it, just doing it so stupid that it makes you so angry. So
it's a way to get energy from you.
yeah,
That's all it was.
yeah. So
He looked
Wolf
like
said-
a voodoo practitioner to me.
Yeah, so the guy was like, "What do you want to drink?" Wolf said, "Coke," and the guy was like, "What? What was that? What other soda sounds like Coke, dude? You work here 8 hours a day. This is what you do for a living.
I just said meth because I thought maybe that's what he was on, or maybe that's what he thought.
Like, what? How can you misconstrue that? Coke?
Look kind of itchy.
What? Huh? What kind of drink was that?"
Well, what the computer say, okay? And what the computer say. All right. Anyways,
oh, God.
bottom line, we're done talking about that. Bottom line is you can't get good service, whether it's from the robot or the millennial. Either way, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're pretty much boned. I mean, you're done. Best thing you can do is cook at home. That's what I've been doing, and it's just better. It's more nutritious. It's just better. I mean, I don't know. Anyways, I got the studio. I got Zane tonight. We kidnapped him since we lost the other useless person. So we have you now.
We found him hitchhiking on the highway.
He was on the side of the road.
I am the step-in useless person.
Well, no, you're not useless.
No,
You're
I'm
just
kidding.
you can move the camera though a little bit so we can get him in the shot.
I can't see me. Help.
There we go. There we go. Zoom out there and get them both in there. So Zane and Tony are joining me tonight. So we have a heck of a show. Yeah, he scoot in a little bit over on his side. What we got going on tonight, we're going to talk about some weird stuff. We're going to start with a couple stories, and let me give you a rundown here. We're not going to waste any more time. We're going to get right to it here. I just had to vent. There were some things that were just aggravating me about the YouTube thing, like why people can't do YouTube. It's like YouTube beat me up when I was a kid, and I no longer I have PTSD from it. YouTube broke into my house and stole my guinea pig. I mean,
Speaking of,
I get the craziest stuff, dude. So here's what we're going to start with. We got this one. There's some weird stuff going on in the world. This one came from England, Birmingham, I believe. And I call this one Phantom in the Closet because I don't know what else to call it. It's just a weird story. So we're going to start off with this one. This one was really bizarre. I was telling my wife, we were looking at it, and we were like, that's so weird. So I'm going to do it in an English voice like this, and I'm going to talk, and I'm going to tell you what exactly happened. It was very scary. Very, very scary.
Your Yorkshire narrator.
What was so shocking about this particular incident, and I'm done talking like that. Look, I'm going to talk like a normal human. All right, look, this particular incident was so crazy. They oh, hold on, folks. My flow has completely been. I don't care. I can't. I need to be able to see. Okay, so anyways, sorry about that. People are messing with me. They're always messing with me. So this guy and his wife had an issue. The child kept hearing things and seeing things, and she kept talking about a man that lived under the stairs, which is really creepy because we have a little. What is it under our stairs? It's like is it a closet? I don't know. It's a crawl space type thingy under our stairs, but it was very similar to that. I lived in a townhome, and right under the stairs there was like a closet, but it was so small there was like no way that this, like the guy was telling us like if you go into it you can barely. He's not a big guy. He's tall. He's about 6'1", or however many centimeters that is. And he walks in, and he goes, I can't even extend my arms. You know, it's so narrow. You can hang coats up, and that's about it. What's really weird about it is where the wall is, there should be more room back there, is what he said. He's like, there's like a little room back there that you can't get to. Liberty, thank you for that donation. And so I was curious about that, and I still am. And, of course, he hasn't taken a claw hammer and knocked out that wall yet because he's renting. But I told him, I said, you should probably find out what was behind there, you know. But here's what happened. After months of his little kid saying, you know, there was a man that was under the closet, under the stair, coming out of the stairs, him and his wife were in the kitchen. They're making dinner together. He's like, dude, and our kid they have two children. One was just a little, like, 2-year-old. And had been put to bed, whatever, and the other one, the 6-year-old, was upstairs. So there's no misconstruing what this was. And he said, dude, we saw something move, and it looked like in the corner of our eye something came out of the closet, and my wife said there's a man that just walked out of the closet and walked out the front door. So he drops the spatula, which I'm assuming he was making burgers or something, and he had a spatula in his hand. He says, I dropped the spatula and I ran out the door. And this guy, entity, dude, whatever, was gone. It just disappeared. And so I told him, I said, did you pop a cap in his ass? He said, no, I don't have guns. I said, oh, okay. Did you call the police? No, we have bobbies. I said, man, you're totally screwed. Get out of there. That's not what happened. Anyway, he comes back in, and he tells his wife, he's like, I'm at a loss. I don't see anybody. He's like, when you go, like, you kind of have to go down a couple stairs. He's like, there's no way this guy could have gone, you'd see him either way. There's nowhere to go. And he said it was crazy. So then one day they come home from the movies or something. I think that's what he was at the theater, which in England could be anything. I don't know what it could be. What is the theater in England? Puppet shows? I don't even know what they do. I don't know. I love England. I'm just saying I don't know what y'all do. I'm not trying to make fun. I don't know. You can't win in soccer and help me with my bets. But anyway, that's fine. Whatever. Anyway, they come back in. And they go into the kit as they're going to put their coats up, whatever, and they use that to put their coats up. You know, it's a coat closet. Put their coats up, and then they walk toward the living room. The little girl says, "Look, Mommy, it's the man." She turns around, and there's a guy, a very nondescript, just normal-looking guy, just walked out and wearing a black coat and walked straight toward the door, carrying a briefcase. As he got to the door, this is the part that's freaky, and him and his wife and his children witnessed this. He just walked right through the door and faded as he walked through it, like he was walking into another dimension. That happened just like a couple weeks ago. Now, if you were there and you were that individual and you had your wife and your children there and some guy that just walked like a man. He looked like a man in black, the way he described him. Like, you know how they have the hat and the black, everything was black. He just walks out of the closet and just goes out the front door and just dissipates into the ether.
As he opened the front door?
As he opened the front door, yeah. Like, I would be so freaked out, dude. Self-preservation, though, for me, would kick in. And I would probably tell my wife and children to go look for this guy. Because I'm not the one. I got things to do. I got to live.
Well, I
so
send
you
the
have
children
kids, right?
first.
So they can work on the farm
Well, exactly.
and protect you.
See,
That's
they
why I
can
had you
see it
guys.
better.
You send the children first, obviously.
They can deal with the ghosts. But
Other than
I can see
afterwards,
that.
you send the wife.
Exactly. You give your wife the spatula, one of the kids, I'm assuming like a plastic bat or something, and then
Spraying
The
with hose,
lawnmower.
throwing the toilet
It's
water.
his tool of
that is
choice.
not what happened, folks. Y'all raised by me, okay? You know me. I'm the first one in, last one out, okay? I would have been all over this dude, but how are you going to tackle something that dissipates? And since that incident, that was the most shocking. It's just a couple of little things that weren't, but like stuff moved around and stuff. But, somebody walks to the front door and dissipates. That's a pretty, I don't know, man. That's a pretty epic. I don't know what I would do. But the update on our house is my wife had something happen. She said she heard like a weird groan, moan sound coming from the bookshelves, and I was like, that's weird. And then sometimes our pets will just go into a frenzy and start running around, freaking out, and they'll all run upstairs and go under Anthony's bed. And this has happened a couple times. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a game with them. I've tried asking. I'm like, is this a game to you? And my cat just looks at me and blinks his eyes. And then the other one's over there like, he don't want to even look at me. So something's up. And then Elvira, our little dog, she just sits there with a mean look on her face. But that's because you got hair all over her and she can't. She's not mean. She just looks like she's mad all the time. When you lift her hair back, she's like, hey. And then you realize there's something underneath all that anger. They've done this a couple times. Like, I mean, it's really weird, right, guys? You've seen this. It's like they just run up the stairs. People can say, well, they're playing, but they never did that at the old place. They all just ran under one spot to go hide. I mean, at one time, it was
Maybe it's because they got more room.
maybe they got more room. Maybe they're I don't know. Maybe something's going on that I don't know about. I can't see it. Whatever it is. I did hear something the other day though, but I'm not going to say what it is. And my wife is at home alone. She'll be scared. She'll be over there like, why'd you say that? Show. I was listening. So I'm not gonna talk about it. Okay, I'll tell you what it was. I'm just joking. I'm not gonna do that. But the thing is, we have these animals, and they freak out, dude. And I don't know, man. It's the one dog still lives at our old apartment. But she was very in tune with stuff when stuff would be going on. I'm talking about baby.
Yeah.
She would be like, up in it. Elvira's just kind of weird. She just weirds out and hides. And the cats, the behavior that they've exhibited as of late,
They're weird themselves. Like, they're not
Yeah.
normal cats.
They're not normal. But they're good, not normal. They're not.
Yeah,
bad.
like
It's
they're
not bad.
exceptionally amazing.
You want cats like these.
Yeah.
You don't want butthole cats. These are good cats. But the ferrets, though, the other day, I mean, when this event happened, I was at the table, and it was spooky. I'm not gonna lie. I was sitting there eating a bowl of kashi, which is terrible in and of itself. That's the spooky part, that I was actually eating that. It was something that Alec had left, and I was like, ugh, what is this? And I ate it anyway because I'm just picking up to see how good it is. So I tried it. It was terrible. So I'm getting up to go scrape the bowl, and it's weird because as I'm scraping the bowl, I stop because I hear and I thought, that's weird. That's not me. And what it turned out, it was the ferrets. And they were upstairs like shaking the cage, like, and I'm like, what in the heck? And I see the cats and the dog all just hauling butt up the stairs. And so I go up there and I look, and I thought I saw something move really quickly going toward my study or out of my study, like really like quickly, boom. I was like, what was that? And then, I was there and everybody was still asleep. And so I walked up the stairs, and the animals were all underneath Anthony's bed, which was odd. That's twice now that's happened. So I don't know what's going on with that. It's I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. We've had a few weird things happening. I don't even want to get into it right now. But yeah, that story, the guy in the closet, that's a really weird one. Here's another one I was going to talk about, and this goes into the clone. We're talking about clones. Okay, we got some stories, and then we were talking earlier, and we decided in the 11th hour, me and Anthony, Tony, and Zane, we're going to talk about these clones because I have several stories from it. One of the stories that I got involving what I believe I believe this is legit, and the reason I'll tell you why. Let's see. Adam Jinx says Dogman, Sasquatch, stuff like that is one thing. Paranormal ghosts is see, Adam, I disagree. It's all the same. I mean, I can tell you a story of a house that was extremely haunted that these people had two weird creatures on top of their roof. That's one of the stories I was going to get into tonight, but I'll save that one for our guest. And just stick around because you may think, hey, Dogman is this, but Dogman may be that. Or it may be both. But there's a story I'm going to talk about when my guest comes on, and you're going to be hopefully in attendance. But thank you for these donations, guys. It's amazing. Curtis Turner, thank you for the donation. Liberty, Paul Deal, thank you for your second donation. Half Twisted, Half Not. Was it the Gordian Knot? I had to undo the Gordian Knot the other day with a bag of food somebody gave us. It took me 30 minutes to undo it. It says here, joining you for my second week. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
I appreciate that a lot. So one of the things that we were talking about is that there was a story that I was going over with the guys, and I was like, should we talk about this one tonight? Should we not talk about this one? We're going to get into it. And I got a whole bunch of stuff about cloning. I have a guy down in Memphis who really believes that his brother is a clone. And his brother was, I'll start with this one. I got a couple. We're going to get into a couple weird ones here. His brother went missing back in 1997. Or 1997. He said in 1996 his brother became very ill, and then in 1997 he went missing. He returned in 1998. So he went missing in July of 1997. He had a history of drug dependency.
Mm.
Not in the way like he wasn't shooting up speedball. What I mean was he took pills, and he became addicted to them. And I believe it was Oxycontin. And so what ended up happening was this guy had gotten off of them, but they believed he fell off the wagon. They got a weird phone call from like L.A. or something. They thought that it was him, and he was all babbling. So they thought, okay, this isn't a big deal. This guy's alive. He's okay. He's just strung out, and he's whatever. Well, in 1998, this was in July of 1997, when he returned in February, late February of 1998, he was completely clean. He was a new man. He claimed that he was a Mormon and that he had been changed. Like he no longer drank, he didn't smoke. And they said, well, where did you go? What happened? He said, no, I went to Utah and I became Mormon. I got my life right. I found the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or whatever. And I decided to get in. And you would think, okay, that's good. It's admirable. You went and did something, whether you agree with that religion or not. I mean, it doesn't matter if you became a Hare Krishna. I mean, the guy changed his life, right? He's no longer, but his mannerisms were completely different. It wasn't like somebody, joined a church and turned the life around, whatever. Because I know Mormons and they're just like everybody else. I have a friend who's a Mormon, my friend Ryan, he's a Mormon. I don't, he's just like a normal guy. Goes about his life, whatever. He lives out in Utah, in Salt Lake. But this guy came back and he was like, he started a garden. He started like he was very reclusive. Before he was more outgoing, whatever. He became very reclusive. And so the story with his brother didn't kind of shake. It didn't really fall out. His brother was like, I don't really buy this story because he would catch him talking to himself and he would be looking in the mirror and he'd be touching his neck, which was odd. And then one of the things he noticed is there was a scar on his brother's hand. Okay. And he said it was a very visibly noticeable scar. And he's like, he goes, after the first week, I noticed that scar was just barely there. It was just barely there. It almost looked like somebody had taken a knife and tried to mimic the scar. Which maybe this is him thinking after the fact. And I said, now, hey, wait a minute. Are you saying that that's not your brother? He's like, that's exactly what I'm saying. He's like, another thing too, he said, my brother had a motorcycle accident where he broke his ankle, both his ankles, but one of them really bad, had a pin in whatever, and there's a scar down there. He said it was very faint. He noticed him always wearing socks that were
Covered
whatever.
those scars.
Yeah. And he said my brother was wearing ankle socks. Thing he knows about his brother, too, is that they're Irish twins. They're 1 year apart. And his brother was born, like, I think the day before New Year's or something like that. And he was born, like, the next year on New Year's Day or something like that. Anyway, he said it was very odd behavior on his brother's part. So he told his mother, he said, you see anything weird about him? And his name's Kyle. I don't like to say that. But he said Kyle is weird. His mother's like, yeah. Like, she made him his favorite food.
He didn't like it?
Which was lasagna. And he says, well, I don't eat pasta. And she's like, since when? He goes, well, I quit. That's one of the things I cut out, you know. And she's like, well, do you remember when you were younger, you would always eat pasta and this and that? And he goes, oh, yeah, man, I always, I always loved pasta. You know that. And she's like, oh, really? Because no, you didn't. When you were a kid, she's like, you only ate like 3 things. You were very picky. Zane, you were like that, very picky.
Yeah.
But that's kind of bizarre that he agreed to that. And then, when he got older, that was a dish. She used getting him to eat lasagna. She's like, look, I will give you this if you eat this. And then it kind of opened up his horizons. When he was like a teenager, he started eating more food. So when he was a kid, he didn't eat pasta. So that wasn't true. And then there were a couple other things. He didn't know the name of his childhood dog. So my friend, I'm going to say my friend, but I've gotten to know the guy. He seems like a nice guy. But he goes, this isn't my brother. I don't know who this guy is, but this isn't my brother. I said, well, who is it? What do you? He said, I don't know. You tell me. I have no idea. You probably know as much about him as I do. This guy is some imposter. But he looks like his brother. I mean, there's a side-by-side picture of him. But this guy has a very, I guess you would say, rudimentary remembrance of this of his brother's life, whoever this guy is. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you take that one individual story and you say, that's a weird story, Wolf. What, right?
That's odd, yeah.
It's an odd story, but it's a one-time thing. It's, whatever. That's not a one-time thing. Is it, Tony?
No, it's not. I mean, I think you've told me something similar that's happened in Africa. And, this is something you told me a while back that when you were bringing up this story that I brought up to you so that you could also talk about this one.
Mm-hmm. You're referring to the story about Rhodesia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the thing. I knew a guy very, very close to me, like really close. We were very good friends. He was a merc, and he was over in Rhodesia. And during the war, and he was actually helping to defend some of the natives, the locals. Now, it's a big mess over there. I'm not going to get into the geopolitics of South Africa and Zimbabwe, but I will tell you right now, it's not the way the media says it is, and it's not as cut and dry as you think it is. Okay, one of my really good friends, is Zulu. Like, he is Zulu, and they some of them felt like they weren't getting a fair shake from the ANC, and so it's a big quagmire. There is a Nigerian force that they're Fulani, and they've spread out all over Africa, and I'm talking like ants, and I'm not joking, and they are in every country in that continent, and they fight in war after war after war, and it's like, who is funding these people? And like I said, I'm not going to get into the whole. It's a very touch and go thing. My friend Odue told me he lived in Britain for a while. He's a good guy. I've known him for years, and of course, I think y'all know Koos. Mm-hmm. You met him from the club when y'all were younger. Yeah. They're from there, and they were telling me some stuff about and it kind of coincides with what my friend told me. He said that after they had a firefight, after they had a battle to defend someone's farm because the farms were being, and Mugabe had hired these Nigerian mercenaries. And he said, dude, they were like ants, like just overrunning everything. And he goes, they were hired to terrorize the farmers and to get rid of them. They drove out a lot of the Indian, Chinese, Zulu, and the Boers, just whatever. because they were reacquisitioning these farms as collectivization. It's basically communism, which is what Mugabe did. And he hired these mercenaries, and they find them all over Africa. Now, I have personally been to Africa, and I've been to many countries over there. Funny that I've been there, but never been to the Northeast. What does that tell you about the Northeast? Anyways, I'm kidding. If you're from there, I'm sorry. Look, that you live there. The thing is, you got to understand, when these people tell you these things, they are being completely upfront and honest with you. Because I know these people. And so I was shown a picture. Of course, this is from, the 30 years ago, whatever. But I was shown pictures about 15 years ago. And these pictures showed from this person that I'm good friends with. He said, dude, I got the pictures. I can show you. These people, they were all the same. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, there were 30 dead soldiers, Nigerian in origin. And they all looked the same. And I, with my own eyes, me and 3 of my friends from back in the day, including my brother, who may be in the chat, and Scorpion might have seen it too. I don't know if he did or not, but we were all there looking at it. I know Tony, I think your stepdad was there. We saw these pictures. These were soldiers, and they all looked the same. Now, I'm not talking like Star Wars, Clone Wars.
That's just what I was just thinking.
Yeah, what
of.
is it with the guy? He looks like Boba Fett or whatever, where they all look exactly the
clones.
same uniform. Some of them were thinner, and some of them had beards, and some of them, they weren't exactly the same. And some of them just looked similar. You know, like you could look at them and go, maybe these are brothers or something. But 30 of them?
Right.
How do you get 30 people that all look the same?
No.
So what I was told, and I don't know if this is true, but after doing some research on this years ago, and I thought, I was told that I shouldn't talk about it. But I've already talked about so much crap already. I mean, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? If you've been with me this long, and you've been from day one, and you've listened to all these live streams, and you already know. What in the hell is going on with this? Okay? You got all these dudes lined up that look like copies of one another with just a little bit of variation. And like I said, it wasn't exactly like, you would see like the Clone Wars, Star Wars, whatever. Somebody is funding this assault on Africa. And I call it an assault on Africa because these people are fighting wars in every country in that continent. And why are they coming from the same source? Okay. If you know, please tell me, because I'm all ears. I don't know what the answer is to that, but it is very weird. So you go back to this guy who had the brother, right? Ultimately, his brother ends up moving away, moves to like Colorado or something, like Durango or something, I don't know, somewhere. And that was it. They lost touch. He hadn't talked to his brother in years. Like, I think he said now it's like 20 years or something like that. But the question is, what happened to his brother? And who is this other guy that looked just like his brother, but not his brother? That's the question.
Well, the question really, or the answer lies in what happened during his disappearance, Like, whatever happened then, did that change his life for better or for worse? Like, that's where you're going to find your answer. I mean, did he really just have a moment where he changed everything that needed to happen and he got clean and he changed his life and he's just acting weird because he's a different person? Or is he actually a different person? It's it's hard to know. What do you think, Ben?
I'm not sure. I mean, sorry. What?
No, go ahead. No, Zane, your turn.
I mean, I've known people that like completely switch, and they stop doing certain things or whatever, and like certain things change, but you would kind of have to know this person already to really be able to tell, just how much and how deep that change like could have been. So, I mean, I think it's possible, but
anything's possible at this point.
I mean, but like, you really never know. So
the story in Africa seems a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a lot more. Yeah.
I can understand
That's a
that
life-changer.
because it's like, why would they change? Why would they clone this dude? Like, what use does this dude have compared to cloning 30 soldiers
Mhm.
so that you can send them
So,
places?
so there's a logistical reason for that.
Yeah, I could see that,
Mm.
but just like cloning a random guy.
Okay, well,
I mean, like, what do you think they do with the people that they
it
with
can-
like all these
Exactly.
then
Like, that's a
let's-
tough one.
Let's get to that. Let me consider this one. There's another one. This one happened. I can't remember what state it was. I was telling you guys earlier.
I think you said Utah.
No. It was actually in Ohio.
Oh.
So this woman, she lived in Ohio. Same thing happened. Her son
Hmm.
went off to war.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this one earlier.
Right.
Comes back from Iraq. Well, here's the thing. She gets in touch with me, and she's like, "I got this story. I got to tell you. I got to tell you. This is crazy. Blah 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 blah." A friend of hers referred her to me, and she said my son came back from Iraq and he's a completely different person. And I told her, I said, well, it's war. You go away to war, you're not going to come back the same. I mean, we all know that. She's like, no, that's not it. She's like, he went away and he came back a completely different person. And I
Unrecognizable.
like,
Basically.
what do you mean? And she says, well, everything about him was different. He ended up on meds because he had some issues, but his behavior was beyond strange. He was like a different person. Like, she's like, he never would drink milk. He didn't like milk. That was one thing when he was young. He didn't drink milk. I'm like that. I told her, I was like, yeah, I still don't like milk. I'll drink almond milk or something. I don't drink regular. I don't like milk. I hate it. I hate milk. That's just me. But she said that when he came home, like the first thing he did was drink milk. And then, which is even more gross to me, she noticed that he had put a carton of buttermilk in the fridge. And she's like, he's drinking milk, he's drinking buttermilk, he's doing things that's really weird, eating things he never ate before.
Right.
And I said, well, maybe, trauma, it flips
Changes
you.
taste,
It could change you, and it could even flip your polarity from good to evil or evil to good. I mean, it's a very powerful thing. You got to go to war. And she said, no. She said, that's not it. She said he didn't. And when he was before he left, she's like, he wouldn't eat eggs. He wasn't like an egg. He didn't like eggs. He would only eat them one way. That was scrambled. He didn't like the yolk. And she said he was eating like hard-boiled eggs like crazy. And just eating like cartons of them.
Yeah. Sounds disgusting.
And it gets weirder. There were a couple other things that made me think this is beyond something. I don't know what this is. She found what looked like long sleeves of like what she thought originally was like some sort of latex. But when she picked it up, it had the consistency of skin.
That's weird.
Yeah, and so when she started telling me about that, and then eventually, long story short, he ended up moving to Arizona, and they don't talk anymore. He met some girl online, and he moved in with her to Arizona. But after he moved in with her, there was problems, and then he moved out, and then he went to jail, and he got back out. She says he thinks she's a different person, and I said, why do you think that these sleeves of stuff? She's like, it's like skin. She's like, it has a consistency of like it's, and I was like, what do you think? He was shedding his skin? Did he have psoriasis? What? She's like, no. She said, but he had a birthmark, 2 of them, in fact. And one of them was on his neck. She said, he always had these birthmarks. One was on his arm, his left arm. She's like, I know my child. I knew him since he was, I gave birth to him, And she's like, and this is not him. She's like, I don't know who they sent back, but it wasn't his name. I'm gonna say his name's Adam. Mm-hmm. But she said, this isn't him. I don't know who this is. And she asked me what I thought, and I said, you need to get the hell away from this guy. Because it doesn't sound like it's your son. She's like, I already did. And I was like, well, I'm not one to tell a mother to leave her son, but he was doing things that were like one day, this is really weird. She goes to open the door to get his laundry. He's sitting across the room she says about 15 feet in that room, you know, it's across the room. He's got a big room upstairs or whatever. And she said that immediately the door closed, like he had slammed the door on her. And she's like, whoa. So when she goes to open the door, he's standing right there by the door. And he's like, he goes, I don't want you coming in my room right now. And he slammed the door on her again. But he was like right there in front of her. She's like, how did he go from being across the room to being right in front of me, the door slamming in my face? It doesn't make any sense. Unless he's got superhuman speed or something. So when you go to these weird stories, you know, it's like, what is going on here? Like this guy, he goes away to war, he comes back. Yeah, he's odd, but it's really odd. And then she had a cat. And that was the last straw. And she said the cat went missing and
He ate it.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And here's another one. Because I got several of these, and I'm not going to get into too many more, but I'm going to tell you one more. Here's another one. For those who still don't believe or don't, you know, consider this one. This was a woman who, I believe she was from Oregon. Very odd. She went missing, but her parents, they panicked. They were like, hey, you know, go to the police, freak out, whatever. She was like 21. She wasn't a kid, but she was, you know, a kid to me. She'd be a kid to me. She's so young. But she went missing. She had a substance abuse problem. And she turned back up about a week later, or maybe a little less than a week. When she returned, she was clean, she was sober, but the weird thing is that her eye color and her hair color were just a little bit different enough to where her parents noticed it. She had all these piercings, you know. When she came back, no piercings. She no longer did drugs. She no longer drank. She didn't smoke cigarettes. She wasn't a hot mess. She just says, I found myself, I got centered, and I did this, and I did that, and blah, blah, blah. And the parents slowly became suspicious. The dad told me some very weird things. He said, my daughter did this complete turnabout, but I don't think it's her. He's like, for years we tried to get her, and all of a sudden she goes off on a trip. She said she went with some friends.
Mm.
But she couldn't tell them who the friends were. This thing just went black.
No, I'm watching it.
Yeah, I got no. Is this thing unplugged? Can't read the comments or do anything. Hold on one second, folks. My screen just went black and I can't. Wouldn't you know, something would happen. I can't operate without it because I can't make the phone call or do anything. We'll be right back. You want to put a
Yeah, it's fine.
Technical
Doing it for now.
difficulties thing.
That's weird. We're sitting there talking about this and then the screen. Okay, so my screen just went out. We don't know what the heck happened, but we got it back working.
It was them ghosts. I tell you
Obviously,
what.
somebody doesn't want us talking about this.
Them hates.
One of them hates up there. So here's what happened, and here's the rub. He believed that this was not his daughter. In fact, he was like, she had these piercings and stuff, and there were no holes. She didn't even have her ears pierced. One of the things that he noticed the most about it was like the eye color. Her eyes went from like a really deep blue to a very light looking, weird, like off blue. The hair color went to like a dishwater blonde when her hair was light brown, and it wasn't dye. And after 2 years, it never changed. It was still that. She had a totally different demeanor, totally different personality. Once again, had a very loose remembrance of who she was before. This is I'm telling you right now, dude, this is like, so Josh, please say hello to your sweet wife, Nellie. Hi, Nellie. Who is this? Doxy Lowrider?
Yeah.
So something is going on here with these people. What, I don't know. Why? I was watching The Fifth Kind the other day. Paul Waz, a friend of mine. I was looking at his channel. He was checking out something about the Fallen and the Watchers and all that, the Nephilim. Some of the people get very confused. And I could go all day and get into a deep dive on that, but I'm going to, save it for another day. But one of the things, there was a story on there about a woman from Ghana who had actually been snatched up by these people that were in the ocean. They were from the ocean, literally. They snatched her up while she was walking on the beach. They kidnapped her. They took her under the water to an underwater place, and they made her bear children for 3 years. And then they brought her back. And there's a whole bunch of stories. You could probably look that up or whatever, but this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not saying that people are being snatched up by sea people, okay? I'm not saying that people are being abducted by aliens. I'm just saying that something is happening here, and we have probably another half a dozen stories like this. So I'm getting stories like every day about really weird stuff. And you're sitting here going like,
What's
what is
going on
here?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously something's happening to these people. So I don't know.
I mean, speaking about her specifically, it reminds me a bit about, Chad. Like, or is it a clone or is it a walk-in like he claims to be? Where, he had when he was young, he told me that he had a near-death experience, and he believed that another spirit actually entered his body and like became the main pilot of that body, and that his original soul died, and that he actually died that day, but another spirit entered his body and walked in basically, and it had some of the same things happen to where his eyes color change and his hair color change, and he started acting differently. I mean, Darryl will tell us all about that all the time.
Well, and this is very similar to walk-ins, but walk-ins typically don't. I mean, it's, from some of the stories that I've gotten, it's like that they've gone missing.
Mm.
They don't.
Yeah,
disappear.
that's true. They don't disappear.
They don't disappear. They just. It's like they. One minute they're somebody and then they're not. Like I had a story of a walk-in. This person literally went to the grocery store, not the grocery store, the what do you call it, the pharmacy, to like Walgreens or something. And then they were gone for a few hours, and they come back, and they were a different person. There was no discernible difference in their physical appearance or anything, but they had no memories of who they were before.
Mm-hmm.
Like absolutely none. And this woman's husband did that, and they ended up getting a divorce. And somebody says right here, half twisted, yes. It says a walk-in would not remove scars and holes in the body. Yes.
That's true.
That is another, and I can get into walk-ins too. I got story upon story with that. I got tons of them. What do you got? What do you need? I got them all. I mean, we have so many. I do a lot of networking, and I get a lot of cross. What do you call it? Like, I was going to say cross contamination, crossover from No, when you deal with a lot of different people and they give you stories and then your people collaborations, you get cross collaborations, and so I get a lot of people from other people's audiences. Like I just found your show because I was on Chris Garitano's show, Off to the Witch. Folks, go check that out. I talk about a lot of weird stuff on there. I try not to make any two interviews the same. I always save some stuff back. So if somebody needs me to come on their show, don't do a lot of shows. I turn down a lot of invitations. And that's nothing against anyone. It's nothing personal. I get about 3 or 4 a week. It's not a lot, I guess, but I don't have time. Let me see it. I'm going to introduce you to
Everybody's been
the
asking
Breaker
about
of
it.
Worlds.
I've teased him enough.
You might want to get him out of it. I can't reach
You want
over
me to
there,
just hand
'cause
him
I'll
to you?
drop him. Yeah, I don't want to hurt the little dude. But this is our new friend. Don't say things like that. There he is. Come here, little guy. Come on. Don't be scared. This is Thanos. And he has a brother, Galactus. What is it? What's his name? Galactica or Galactus? Galactus.
Yeah.
Galactus is the eater of worlds. This guy just snaps his little fingers and you all die. Which I'm going to make him do right now. Ready?
Oh, he showed mercy, I guess.
Us 4 lived. Woo! Thank goodness.
Man.
Call Nelly. Make sure she's okay.
Somebody check the stock price.
Scorp D.
Ooh.
Sorry. Yeah. Anyway.
Dow Jones.
Make him snap the IRS away.
And along with several other many things. Here you go. Take him back.
Little buddy.
So those are our guinea pigs. Nellie had guinea pigs when she was growing up, and she's like, "I love guinea pigs. They're so sweet," and they really are. They're really cool dudes. And but our cats just stare at them all day if they're not acting weird and running up the stairs. So that is Thanos and Galactus. So behave because they have a lot of power. If we get any new ones, we'll let you know. But we're thinking about getting a couple more and then actually letting them breed. And then, we have like a few babies or whatever, They don't live long. That's the only thing. I was like telling Nelly, I was like, same thing with the ferrets, man. I love the ferrets, but they don't live long. I don't want to get too attached to something that's going to die. She's like, let's get a Great Dane. First of all, each out of house and home. Second of all, it's going to die.
Right.
And I'm just like, I don't want to go through that, Just get attached to an animal and then they just, something happens and then you're just like, dude. Oh, well. Anyways, they're sweet little guys. They're cool. We're going to make this phone call. We're going to get our guest on here. We're going to talk about some stuff. And like I promised, I'm going to bring up a weird story to her and see what her opinion and thought is on this whole weird dogman Bigfoot thing. Here we go.
Hello.
Hey, Sabilla.
Hey,
How are you doing?
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Important thing is how are you doing? So we got that established. We're good. So, what you been up to?
Mostly trying to catch up. I got behind after Christmas. My entire family, including myself, my mom, everybody got COVID.
Oh,
So, yeah, everybody's recovering from that slowly.
yeah. Well, I haven't seen you. We've talked a few times, but I haven't seen you since the conference in Jefferson in October. We all got together after the conference, and we hung out at I think it was Ken Gerhard's what is it called, the Airbnb.
Yes,
And,
yes, I was
and-
staying there too. Yeah,
Yeah.
me and
Oh,
Shelley
yeah.
and
Yeah,
you were
and-
all there.
Yeah, everybody was there, Lyle. So we had a good time, but we had a good talk that night, and ever since then, and Barton was telling me, he's like, dude, you got to get Sabilla to come on the show. And I was like, yeah. And so we've been trying to get connected here to where we could have you come on the show because I listened to you speak at the conference, and I liked what I heard. you definitely have a handle on, I believe, a little better than a lot of people on what this whole Bigfoot dogman phenomena is. So I wanted to have you come on the show and talk about your research.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. And thank you. I know Bart, I was kind of watching the chat, so I know Bart's in there. Hello, Bart.
Yeah. Yeah, Barton's my pal. We're always hanging out. And so I was going to ask you, Sabila, now we had a conversation that night, the night of the conference, after the conference, and we talked about the nature of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, and you had a very unique take on it. Do you want to get into that tonight and let the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm not, I don't know exactly what I told you. But, I kind of like a lot of people when they started in all of this, the whole party line was, this is, some relative of Gigantopithecus. And, most everyone was this is the ape family. And it didn't take me very long to discount all that. And, that's not very popular in a lot of circles, and it still isn't, which I think is ridiculous. When you're a field researcher and you're out there working with witnesses, and, I think I told you I got to live on the former Erickson project. I got to live in that house on that property for 5 years. And there's, an awful lot of stuff that happens when you're in the field and whenever you're living on a property like that. And these lines start being blurred. At least they did for me, because there was just a whole lot of paranormal stuff associated with that house, and also on some of the investigations, I've been on, everything from the glowing, the eye glow thing, which happened really early on. Like, I experienced that in 2008, and there was still a lot of people poo-pooing that, but what do you do when you're standing there and you're watching a tree line? There's another investigator right next to you who was part of the Erickson project, and you're standing there watching this tree line, and I'd had a 10-minute thermal encounter in that tree line the night before. So Dennis and I are standing there. There's, we don't do flashlights. Nobody's doing flashlights. It's dark. And in that tree line, suddenly you see these two, white glowing eyes, and I turned to Dennis and I said, "You're seeing that, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." So for me, very early on, I noticed that things were happening that just a regular old everyday animal, some kind of animal, could not do the things that we were seeing. There was an investigation that we were doing in Texas, kind of East Texas, around Jasper. There was a man who had these things on his property, and so one of the investigators borrowed, I think, 8 of the best Reconyx cameras, like the really expensive ones back then. They were like, I don't know, $800 a piece. And he had 8 of them. And this is a really smart guy too. He set them up, and he called me that night and he said, "Sabila, I put these cameras up." He told me how he did it. He said, "There is no way something's going to come in here and get this food. There's no way, because this camera's pointed at that camera, and if this one goes off," he had them all like in a big circle around the feeding area. He even had some up above the feeding area pointing down. And he said, he's very excited, and he said, "This is going to happen." And then the next day I get a call from him, and I answer the phone, and he is cussing like a sailor. Like, I have to put the phone away from my ear. And he said, "You know what they did?" And he's kind of like yelling. And I said, "What?" He says, they moved the cameras. They just turned them. And some of them were pointed at the camper. And so then he goes into town and he gets brackets and he sticks, he screws them all into the trees. He says, "Oh, that's not happening tonight. They're not moving these cameras." And, so then the phone rings the next morning, and I held the phone away from my ear this time and answered, and sure enough, he was cussing again. And they bent the brackets. And again, some of the cameras are pointed, at the house. It's hilarious. So, after after that, and over 8,000 pictures, and not a single one of them, had a Sasquatch in it. He said, but he sent me some clips, and these creatures figured out that the camera has a sequence, so they started throwing sticks and stuff through it to get the, you could see, he sent me like some images. You could see the food, like the camera that was pointed down. You could see the food was there. Then you saw this stuff go flying through, and then the food was gone. Like, they figured it out, like when the camera would not be able to take their image. So, I mean, human beings couldn't do that. And when we would put cameras in places that, as human beings, we would just walk right through them. But these things always busted the cameras. So, I mean, very early on, it was like, no, there's something more to these creatures. These are not stupid animals, as I'm sure you know as well.
Here's the thing. I mean, I know that that there's like this camp that says, oh, well, these are the Nephilim. That's what these are.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can agree with that to a certain extent. But one of the things that people don't understand about the Nephilim and what they don't grasp is that when the angels, the fallen angels, okay, which people always confuse those with the rebellious angels, two different things. When the fallen angels, when they did what they did and they bred with women, somebody asked me, okay, let me go back. I'm going to go back a little further. Somebody asked me, said, how could modern females, like the way we look, breed with these angels and produce giants? And I tell them, because people during that time were giants themselves. Yeah, like the Denisovian people, like they have are fragments. And hear me out. Now here's what's weird. Now I wanted to get you on the show because I wanted to have this discussion with you on the show. The Denisovian people, they found a tooth that's like, it's about that big. It's like this 3 inch and a half big, whatever. Now you would have to have a jaw that could actually, match that. And then they found a female, almost giant, who was of a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovian father. And the Denisovian people, all we have are fragments and bones. We have all these fragments, and it's like something crushed or compressed them,
Yeah.
like a flood. Which, if you read in the book of Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah, and that's not like my favorite book or anything like that, but I've read in all these different books, the Quran, everything, in the book of Enoch, everything I could possibly get my hands on, I've read. The Kabbalah talks about these demons as being from another alternate world, that they were compressed, that they were like obliterated, and they were turned into evil spirits, but that they were once living beings that were compressed, they were crushed, that were like obliterated. When you look at those translations, that's all we have of the Denisovians are these crushed up bones. Like they were destroyed, like utterly destroyed. Why is that? I mean, we can go into the timeline and all this other stuff, but if our ancestors were giants like themselves, and of course they're going to be able to breed with these angels, and they are going to create these gigantic monstrosities. And what the angels are, we really don't know. I mean, there's all these different translations. One of the problems comes when, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, they talk about the Elohim and Yahweh, and they're interchangeable, but they're really not, because it's almost like they're different. There's a different God at play with all these different chapters and all this different stuff that's going on. And so you're sitting there going like, who is Yahweh and who are the Elohim? Elohim seems to be a plurality, like some sort of group, when it says, let's make man in our image.
Right.
And when you go back in time to this, and people, they'll say, oh, well, the earth's only 5,000 years long. I cannot believe that people really actually believe that. I mean, it is so, Göbekli Tepe is 11,500 years ago.
Right.
Which, and when you go back in time, and what this has to do with Bigfoot is that these creatures, I believe that there were some that survived. Well, I know they did. because
Yeah.
when Caleb and Joshua in the book of in the Old Testament, when they sent spies, they said these people are giants. These were Nephilim that still lived. And I'll take it a step further. I think that Jacob's brother Esau was a type of Nephilim. I think there was a bloodline there, and that's why his dad, his mother disliked him so much. His dad, not Isaac, but his wife, she disliked Esau. And Esau had hair. He was real hairy, like a. It sounds like a Bigfoot. I mean, he wasn't as smart or intelligent as his brother, who had smooth skin. He was hairy, and it was so bad that Isaac was blind that they tricked him to steal the birthright. That Jacob stole the birthright. That he actually, when he touched a goat, he thought that was Esau. That his hair was that coarse and that thick. And when you go back and you read the Sumerian tablets, they talk about Enki, and then the Enkidu, which is like a hairy man. I believe that's what these things are. I believe they're the remnants of them, and I believe it's very possible, and they would have abilities that we don't possess because they are of a bloodline that would be demigod, basically.
Right.
And it's you're sitting there, you're trying to wrap your mind around it. So when everybody's like, well, these are just apes that haven't been discovered, we have not found one fragment of any ape in North America ever.
Right.
Nothing, nada.
I know.
So, I mean, where are these apes? Because they're giant apes. I mean, they're humongous.
Yeah.
But I don't see where. I mean, and God bless them. I love Ken. I love Lyle. I love all these. The apers, friends of ours.
Right.
And they and like Lyle, he saw what he saw. The Boggy Creek thing, whatever. And I may have seen something. I don't say I saw Bigfoot, but I saw something that was reddish haired. But the reddish hair thing too. The red-haired giants. I mean, you're there again. You're looking at like something that's possibly from an ancestral time. Like it blows your mind how people can close off and say, "Hey, this is quote unquote what it is," and just completely go down that path for an entire career or your entire existence, and never go into the other direction just because you are convinced that that's what it is. I have had to do an about face with Dogman and come to the realization that this thing is not just flesh and blood. And I think that the Anunnaki created these things, and I think they did it so they could protect the stargates. I think the Tower of Babel, I think that's what that was. I think they were building a stargate. Because how are you going to build a building that's going to go to heaven? You can't. I mean, we built skyscrapers up into the stratosphere. And God has not come down and felt the need to destroy it because we're getting too close to heaven. The Tower of Babel doesn't make any sense unless you put it in the context of they destroyed it because they were getting too close to the heavens. In other words, they were about ready to build the Stargate where they could actually travel.
Right.
And that's why they destroyed it. You see what I'm saying? Like it just,
Oh, I do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I follow
ahead.
you. No, I absolutely follow you with that. And, and people have seen, and I'm sure you've heard it too, where, someone said, well, the thing I saw was had to be 20 feet tall. I mean, have you heard people describe, some of the creatures they've seen being between 14 and 20 feet tall? And the average researcher today is going to go, oh, that's BS, but for me, no, I'm not. I mean, I actually worked with a witness who told me flat out, what I saw was like his face was like a biblical giant. Because I asked all my witnesses, so what, you got a really good look at this thing. What do you think it is? Because I really love to hear eyewitnesses' feelings about not only how it changed their life, but like, what are your thoughts now that you've seen one of these things? And this guy just straight up, and he's one of the only persons that's ever said this, but he said this was a giant, like out of the Bible kind of giant. Its face, he said, this is a human, but it's a giant. And he feels like there's like a whole group of them, like a whole clan of them that he has seen. So, and I thought that was fascinating. Have you also heard of some, being that tall, being really, 14 to 20?
Yeah, very few accounts of that, but I do
Yeah,
not
yeah.
of a Sasquatch. I think the largest I've gotten on a Sasquatch, and you guys here probably with the stories. I don't know if you guys. What is the largest one? Like somebody said, I think 16 feet or something like that.
They get pretty up there. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if we have stories beyond that. I think there was 16 to 18 feet, and that was in Alaska.
I don't know if it goes any bigger than 16. To
Yeah, maybe it
18.
was
Yeah.
16 feet. I think 'cause there
Yeah.
was a story we got out of Alaska, but I don't. Beyond that, when we have gotten stories of creatures taller than that, they describe them as biblical giants
Yeah.
in a different way, you know. But I think that there are different offshoots of this, and who's to say that our progenitors, which I still believe in the all-powerful cosmic mind of God. Okay, that's not to say he doesn't exist. I'm saying though that what we think of as God isn't necessarily God. It's just what we were calling God. And I
Right.
think that our progenitors actually created multiple different levels of species. And if you go to Genesis, and it talks in Genesis about how that we were ignorant, and that we didn't even know we were naked, and that we went after we ate from the tree of knowledge, we went and we covered ourselves with fig leaves. Our ancestors did. There was something there that wanted us to be ignorant. Why would God want us to stay ignorant and not have any knowledge of good and evil? The only reason you would want to keep someone in a very ignorant and poorly state like that is if you wanted to keep them under control. And
Right.
what purpose did you have? And it said that that we worked in the garden. That's what we did. That was our job, was to toil away in the garden, basically. After the humans gained knowledge of good and evil, then we were kicked out. And then, of course, it's debatable what the serpent was. People make a correlation between the serpent and the devil. But the dragon, I think it's in 34 times they talk about the dragons in the Bible. And
Wow.
it's hard to say what these dragons are because they're different. Even the description of Yahweh sounds like a fire-breathing dragon. When you get into David's description of what he saw of Yahweh, that he had flames and just, smoke coming from his nostrils, and it was just so weird. It was like he was like a dragon. But it was more like, to me, I think like a ship, that maybe contained Yahweh or whatever. But
Yeah.
then that brings up the question, why would God need a spaceship? Why does God need messengers if he's an all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful? Because I don't believe that that's what God really is. I believe that God, and that was the big confrontation that Jesus had with the Pharisees. He's like, your father is not my father. Your father is of the Shaitan, and he's of the synagogue of Shaitan. And there, I believe, is a plurality, too, of the Shaitan, or a race of beings. They're not just one being. That's why there's so many different names for the devil, Mephistopheles, Asmodeus, but Beelzebub. Why are there so many different names? But then there's also all these different names for God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Elohim.
Yeah.
And because there's different. And now if you look at lifespans, Methuselah, Noah's grandfather, and Lamech, his son, they all lived to be 1,000 years, because in that time period of the Dvorpa Yuga, which was the Hindus call, they would have lived to be 1,000 years. But if you go to the period before the Dvorpa Yuga, which is the Tetra Yuga, then you see lifespans that were of 10,000 years. And when you go to the Sumerian tablets, it gets real weird. I mean, you had a dynasty that went on for 24,000, they were pretty exact. Like it lagged, I think it was like 24,800 and so many years, so many hours, days, whatever. And then it ended. But when they talk about those kings that ruled, there were only 23 of them. So how could there be 23 kings that ruled for 24,800 years? It doesn't make any sense. But then it also says in the Hindu belief that we were big, tall, and the gods were giant compared to us, So we were miniature versions of them, but we're not this little runty people that we are now. But somewhere in between there, that's where Sasquatch lies. Like he, to me, he's somewhere in there, I say he, she, whatever. And so
Yeah.
you have this this species of being that is not completely human. It's not an angel. It's like a misfit type thing, you know. Some people would call it the missing link, whatever. But what people aren't understanding is the true spiritual nature of our reality. They just don't grasp it. And if you just take this mouse and touch it and think, only what I could touch and feel with my human senses, my 5 senses, is what's real, you're gonna be lost.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Times are crazy. Well, and so people who don't believe in the whole spiritual reality around us, what do they make of, people who are seeing these things? Are they just crazy? Misidentifying.
Yeah.
Misidentifying.
When we were at the conference and we would speak to people, the wildest excuses they'd come up to where like it'd be like, oh, just all these people just saw wrong, or all these people just made it up in their head, or like added to it in their head. And it's like, really, all these people
or
did
they're
that?
predisposed to because they've been looking for it.
Exactly. And
if that's the case, then why hasn't Ken Gerhardt said, I found Bigfoot multiple times? I've seen him everywhere.
Ken is...
I saw him at the HEB down the road. I mean, he didn't, I've been with Ken.
If that's all it takes, is like ghost hunters would be making so much money, because that's all you had to do is look for ghosts and then you find them.
Right.
That's all you had.
I mean,
yeah, we'd have a ton of Bigfoot video and pictures, wouldn't we?
I mean, I may have seen one, and I'm thinking maybe my wife did. I'm convinced she did. Rolane.
Yeah.
And Zane used to work out there and used to hear all kinds of weird stuff,
Yeah.
howls and all kinds of crap. But the thing is, I didn't see it, but like real briefly, and I kind of had an encounter just like Lyle did, and me and Lyle were comparing notes on the way back and forth from the conference, which I'm having another Dogman / Bigfoot conference in September. We're going to get it down Fort Worth. I'd like you to go, Sabilla. I would love for you to come and speak.
Absolutely. I would love
It would
to.
be an honor.
Love to be a part of it. I'm sorry I missed the first one.
Well, you know what? You got to make this one, because we're going to make it bigger and better. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's been a split with the NADP, and now Nick Valenti has become the IDP, or I think it's IDP. So now I don't know how that's going to work. Who's going to represent that? Because I'm friends with both of them, so I'm kind of like, so that's the only kind of challenge I'm going to have there is who's going to go, because I don't know if they can both go to the conference, but we would love to have you, Sabilla. Everybody that was there last year, we're going to bring them and then bring even more people. And somebody said, well, that's going to cost a lot of money. I said, well,
it's worth it. I mean, for one thing,
you'd make a lot of money too, because
that
sold
too.
out.
But it's just like the experience was just great. It was, you can't. There's no amount of money you should pay for a good time, especially with
amazing.
Good time with good people. And it was just, everybody stayed up afterwards after that site to
Everybody
hang
was
out.
pumped,
Yeah, everyone was pumped, hanging out. Everyone was excited to be there, even
First
after.
conference had like 480 people.
You had people that stayed the entire thing, like literally all day, just so that they could hang out and stuff.
The only person that didn't
awesome.
sell out was David Weatherly, and that's because he brought an entire library with him.
Yeah, Barton didn't bring enough books. I mean, he was...
David came prepared. I mean, I was like, at the end of the conference, I was doing a massive giveaway. I said, I'm going to give away, like all of David Weatherly's books that he's written about the states. And he had a set left, and I was like, thank God, because everyone else was sold out. Ron Murphy, Ken, Lyle, Barton, everybody sold out. And I sold and gave away a ton of merchandise. At the East Texas conference, I gave away a bunch of merchandise because the card reader for the little chip or whatever.
The service out there was so horrible.
So nobody could buy anything unless they had a credit card.
Yeah.
And so
I know. It's true.
But
I just gave away everything. But,
we also just do that anyway, though.
I do that anyway. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I don't do this for a living. This is a hobby that I now have to pay taxes on. Let's put it that way. They're like, here's a 1099 from Google, and here's another one from Patreon, and here's another one from who knows what, and just pay all that, and thanks, for playing. And I'm like, okay, on top of my other stuff. War Criminal 7, hey, you need to get in touch with me, buddy. You won a giveaway last week, and you didn't give me your information. So you got to give us your information so we can send you your winnings. And Sabilla, let me know so I can send you some PRT gear too, because I'd love to have you wearing some of our stuff. It's nice, it's comfy.
Would love to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to advertise for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
And I'd
what are
love
you
to be
working on
there.
right
Just
now?
let me know. You know what? I have just been inundated with Dogman sketches
I saw that.
of all sizes. Like, and that's the crazy thing. Not the typical 8 foot tall, solid black kind of Dogman thing. Like, that's not what's happening. Like the one I just posted on Facebook the other day. That thing was only 3.5 feet tall.
Yeah. They're not
Yeah.
all giants.
Yeah. So, and it was there was 3 of them, and it was a police officer, and he's going to be writing a book. So, I didn't want to tell his story too much, but he came up onto this scene, North Carolina, late at night, dirt road. It was very foggy, and up ahead he sees 3 things. He first thinks it's people like fighting in the middle of the road, and as he gets closer, he realizes, oh my God, this is not people, and these things are, have a dog head, and they're fighting. That he feels it was 2 males and a female. The female was off in the ditch, and God, he saw it was like an MMA fight. Like one of them had another one up over its head and smacking it against the ground until it was unconscious, and then he threw it in the ditch and then started for him. And that's the image I drew. Is he said it had its hands up like it was coming for him, like he said, like a wrestler, like here it comes. Yeah, crazy.
That's crazy. I mean, what's worse, one dog foot that's 9 foot tall, or
A dog foot?
Dogman is 9 foot tall, or 3 of them,
Call it that. We're so weird. All this was.
or 3 feet tall ones coming after you. I don't know what
Yeah,
kind
and
of
well,
worse.
the one-
Showrunner is what-
Yeah, you can't really see them because you just see something run around like at waist height, swinging at your ankles and knees.
Dog foot.
Yeah, he said he didn't fear for his life, but and he was standing outside his car, like right by the door, but when it came for him, and it obviously meant business, he just got back in his vehicle and put it screaming in reverse and got out of there. And then he said he drove down the road, and then he stopped and he turned around, and it's like, what did I just see? And I got to go back. So he went back, and of course they were gone. And then another sketch just recently was a woman, a paramedic, who was on her way to work like 3 or 4 in the morning, only 4 miles from her home. She comes around a corner, and her headlights hit this thing in the middle of the road, and it's huge. And she raises big dogs, so she said this was bigger than any dog. It was on all 4s, and it was over some roadkill. And she says, I'm a paramedic. I recognize intestines, the color of them. And she said this thing had its hand in the body cavity and was pulling up. She saw hand and shoulder, and elbow. She said it was pulling up, intestines out of the body. And it took up the whole lane, so she literally had to swerve to go around it. And that just happened the first week in January. So that's very recent.
So
And
you're
then I
starting
have
to get
a couple-
more Dogman stories.
New year,
Yes.
new Dogman. So,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Crazy.
crazy.
And and that's never really happened before. They've been more sporadic, or I don't know, or maybe people are just, I guess they've always thought of me as more of a Bigfoot sketch artist, and maybe, now they're seeing that I'll basically sketch anything, whether it's, UFO related or, alien. I'll just basically sketch what it's, I do sketching encounters, so it's whatever people are seeing. So, I'm here for people, and, I want to let everybody know too that I don't charge people. So if they've had a sighting and they want to try to recreate it, I'm here for them.
Maybe you can finally sketch mine. I had Charlie actually sculpt mine, but nobody's ever been able to sketch it. And I look at it and I go, it's not exactly what I saw. Even the sculpture wasn't correct because the ears were more straight up and down. I mean, my friend that I saw it with, and you guys have all met him and heard his side of the story.
Yeah.
The ears, we were like, the ears are more straight up and down.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah,
I'd love
you
to
got
do
to.
it. Yeah.
Got to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I won't
had-
quit until you tell me that that's what I saw, because I'm real
Okay.
persnickety.
You're persnickety, huh? The only time I ever heard anybody use that word was Lyle, and except for me. Now, me, you, and Lyle, the only ones I've ever heard use the words persnickety. And I thought, whatever happened to crestfallen and persnickety and all the other, really cool words?
I like
Old
crestfallen.
fashioned.
It's a
Yeah, I like those words.
Yeah.
You don't really hear
persnickety does sounds.
or poignant. People don't like to use those. But I guess, it's like you have all these words that they're really cool words that have meanings and people just don't use them.
Well,
Just-
people don't read anymore. And usually,
yeah.
Oh, that's so true.
Well, there's been an overall
Yeah.
dumbing down of our society on purpose. It's like,
On purpose.
big buildings, food,
Yeah.
whatever. I had
Yeah,
one for you,
we're-
and I wanted to go over this one with you. And I believe Adam Jinks, who was at the conference, he's the listener. He was in the show. I hope he's still on the thread here. But I wanted to go over this with you because I thought this would be right up your alley. This happened here in Texas, in Central Texas, near Lexington, Texas, and it was near. I'm not saying it was where it was at, but I don't know these people personally, but the people that I talked to, they know them personally. So but they had a story, and they live out in the country, and they were having what they thought were Bigfoot encounters, and they had a bunch of weird noises and smells, and then some eye shine. But they didn't have a full-on sighting except for one person, and it's all pretty much that one person was the only one. And there was a 17-year-old who saw one of these creatures run across the road. That's all she saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went over a barbed wire fence and was gone. And her and a friend. Now, the friend didn't get as good of a look at it, and she's a 16-year-old, so it's a 17 and 16-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And so that's what made them think, hey, this is, a Bigfoot, because that's what it looked like. But one night, up until this happened, they heard this loud, the dogs were going crazy, and they heard what sounded like a battle going on top of their roof. And the guy, the dad, of course, he has 4 kids and his wife out in the middle of nowhere, and he's freaked out. And he hears all the animals going crazy, whatever. And there's just grunting, growling, just viciousness going on the roof. So he runs outside. He's obviously got a weapon, and it's Texas. So, he's going to have a weapon. He comes outside, and he says, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I see these 2 creatures that were like holding each other's arms. They looked like gorillas, and they were just in a full-on what looked like a wrestling match with one another. He said, but when I came outside and I was like staring at them, it's like they both just kind of stopped. And he goes, it was almost like in slow motion. Their heads both turned and looked at me. Now get this. He said one of them had a snout. And I asked him, I was like, okay. I said, the snout, that is very important. What did it look like? He said, dude, it wasn't so much wolf-like. It was almost like a bear, like the shortness of a bear, like real wide, but it had a tail. And it had these weird backward bent legs. I said, that's a dog, man. And he said that other creature looked like a gorilla mixed with like some sort of Neanderthal. And I said, that's obviously, a Bigfoot. So he compared notes with his daughter and her friend. And like I said, the friend didn't have much to say. She just saw this big figure go across the road. The daughter saw more of it because she was more in front when they were getting out of the car. And she said, yeah, that's what I saw. But the fact that he saw these 2 creatures on the roof, and when they witnessed him staring at them, they both just kind of like sat there. Like they literally just kind of got down on their haunches and just stared at him.
Wow.
They weren't fighting anymore. There was no more altercation. They were just looking at him. And when he shined the flashlight directly under their eyes, the Bigfoot's eyes were red, or he said orangey red. And the dogman's eyes were yellow.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he goes, dude, when I took the light off of them, they were still illuminated. Well, the dogman's were. He didn't say the Bigfoots were. And he was specific about that. But it's very weird. Like when you listen to this story, and he said, dude, I didn't know what to do. And he said they went over the backside of my roof. They jumped off, apparently, and they just were gone. And he goes, and my dogs were all barking and freaking out and running all over running around the house. He has four dogs. One of them in particular was a Pyrenees, and he said it was right next to him, and it was just it was shaking, like it was shaking.
I bet, yeah. Wow.
And so when you take this into account, this But this wasn't the last thing that happened. There was another incident that happened involving one of these Sasquatch-looking creatures, and it walked toward, like, he's one of those metal hangar type barns,
Mm-hmm.
and it walked into it, and him and his son were walking out and they look up, and they had just gotten off of one of the ATVs, and they see it walking into the barn or the hangar, and they're like, they look at each other, and they're like, and so they took off toward it, and they kind of like got on either side of the front, the door, like, there's two double doors that open up.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we went with both of our weapons drawn on either side, and we searched the whole thing, and there was no way in or out, and it was gone.
Oh, wow.
So they witnessed this thing go into the barn, and that was the last that anything that's happened. And he said that was 2 years ago, and then the activity from that point on absolutely stopped. There was nothing else, except
Wow.
there was a haunting that had seemed to have escalated in the house itself. So
Wow.
that part is weird, and he gave me a whole bunch of stuff about what had gone on
Oh, no.
prior to these episodes and then after the episodes. But it seemed like that activity kind of ramped up, and then the Bigfoot were no longer around. Like he said, I don't know if they moved on or what happened. But when you start to look at that, that's why I told Adam Jenks, I said, stick around, because this is an example of why you can't say that these things are normal flesh and blood creatures. And if somebody asked me right now what I think Dogman is, I would tell them there's something that was created by the Anunnaki to keep us from going back and forth into portals or dimensions, whatever, and having that ability. They were probably created for our overseers to use as weapons just to keep us under control.
Yeah.
Some people would say there's some sort of alien presence. I've had that. A bunch of people tell me that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I mean, they're
and I've
obviously
also-
not flesh and blood.
I've also
all the way.
heard stories. I've also heard stories about them being kind of guardians during witches' covens, like witch coven ceremonies. Have you ever heard that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Scary.
And I think that that there again, when you look at the situation of them like being evil, okay, being involved in black magic, black mass. Somebody was asking me about the nature of reality, and we were talking, whatever, and they were referring to black magic, and I said, I call it black science, because all it is just science that we don't know. It's why we call it magic. If you flew an airplane over a bunch of villagers who had never seen one, they're going to be like, that's a Thunderbird.
Yeah, I mean, I like
You
to
know?
make the excuse, or I like to say that all the time. Like, if you take a lighter and show it to a caveman, you're a wizard.
You created fire.
You know, you're
Right.
something special in your hand too. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how could
Watch
you do
Quest
that?
for Fire, boy. They go out of their way to go find the fire. I mean, when all they got to do is just rub sticks and stones together, and they're like, yeah, they're like, what's his name? Ron Perlman. He's up in a tree hiding from. So he can get fire. You know, I mean, it's a big deal. You know, like they're like, oh, I'm Baba Cook. Look at this guy. He's got fire. Like, oh, he's a magic. You know, you're a wizard.
But it's
I mean,
true.
you know, it's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a laser,
Yeah, no,
and
it's
you
very true.
shot a tree and lit on fire, you'd be like, this is epic. This guy just lit this tree on fire. All it is science. I think that's what these things are, because these Anunnaki, whether they were good, bad, evil, whatever, there were different types, different beings, whatever, from different places that were coming here, and ultra-terrestrial, extraterrestrial, whatever you want to call them, interdimensional, you know. They came here, and some were good, some were bad. But they all had some sort of gambit, you know, that they were playing. And I think that what this thing is, you know, with this covens and all that, they've just discovered a way through the nature of our reality to summon things and do things. It doesn't make it magic. It just means that they have an advanced technology. Just like I believe that calling upon the name of the Lord can do things to help you, because those creatures, you know, Michael the Archangel, when they were arguing over the body of Moses, which is another weird passage. Why was he fighting with Lucifer over the body of Moses? It's a weird thing, but he says, the Lord thy God rebuke you. So he called upon the God of God's name. He didn't do it himself. And he said, the Lord thy God rebuke you, you know? And so there's a value there. It's almost like the equivalent of me, like say me and you, Zane, we go to the liquor store,
Right.
and we go in there and we get unruly.
Yeah.
This has never happened before.
Some liquor.
Okay,
Some
but if
salt
it
liquor.
did,
Yeah.
somebody would say, "Hey, I'm about to call the cops."
Right.
That might get you to chill out. I don't want to go to jail, and you don't want to go to jail. So we're like looking at each other.
Right.
Why don't we not mess around in this liquor store and leave this guy alone, and let's get out of here because I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're not outlaws. It would just say, "Give me all your money and do it anyway."
There's one outlaw that really needs that $40 rock.
Exactly. But we're not those guys, right? So
Yeah, not at all.
if somebody says, "Hey, I'm calling the police," it's the equivalent of saying the police are going to deal with you.
Right.
So you better chill out.
That's right.
Right? So then the devil, he says, "Okay, fine. Take Moses' body."
Yeah.
First of all, I don't even know why they were arguing for it. It's a very weird passage. But second, I mean, it is. And then second of all, he backs off and says, "Okay, Michael, you win. You're going to call God,
Right.
whatever. I'll back off.
Yeah.
Go ahead, take his body, whatever." But it is the equivalent of that. So when you're calling upon the name of Christ, when you call out to God, he'll answer
Right.
in one form or another. So that's why these demons, sometimes even in the middle of alien abduction, which is what they are, they're extraterrestrials that don't have bodies,
Right.
they back off. Like this one woman, this happened in Ohio too, up in, I think it was not Dayton. It was one of those other godforsaken cities like Cleveland or something. But it's not her fault. She lived there. But anyway, she lived outside of Cleveland. But she was saying that she had for years alien abduction when she became a born again Christian, and she yelled out, and she's like, may Christ rebuke you, and she said it just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it. She's like, I was born and raised a Southern Baptist, and her husband was in the Army, and then they moved to Ohio. She's a very sweet woman. She's an African American lady. She really God fearing person. And she said, somebody told me these are demons that are doing this to you. She goes, I don't know if they are or not. She's like, but when I did that, they faded back into the wall. They look just like grays.
Mm-hmm.
Why would that matter to an extraterrestrial unless there's some sort of power and a law that's given that name?
Right.
Why would that matter? And I don't believe that they're all just masquerading either. I think that this is what they are. But I think that we misinterpreted a lot of especially with the Old Testament, because there were so many amendments to it going all the way up to the 600 BC. They amended it over and over again. And somebody says here, David says, Satan did not do all that bad stuff to people in the Old Testament. Yahweh did. Well, Yahweh, yeah, he did. If you look at the character of Yahweh in the Old Testament, he seems like a very angry, vengeful God that does all these things, like he sent fiery serpents down to the children of Israel because they complained about being hungry.
Didn't a bunch of kids make fun of bald guys?
Yeah,
Like a
and
bear?
they were torn
Yeah,
apart
yeah.
by the bears in the
Hilarious.
woods. Yeah, that's another one. But Satan is not who we think it is. Satan is actually a race of beings known as the Shaitan, and they are actually a race of evil. According to the Muslims, they're a race of evil jinn. They're a type of jinn, but they're evil. Because to them, there's good, there's bad, there's evil, whatever. To Christians, a lot of Christians, they just automatically fall into this is quote unquote demons because that's what it is. When in reality, demons are the Nephilim. And that's because when they were destroyed by the flood, it says that they will be evil spirits for all time. And their fathers, the fallen, they were chained up. They're locked away. And that they're not going to be released. I mean, until they will be locked away in the earth until as long as the earth shall endure. Azazel, all of those. But there was something that happened prior to that, going back even further. If you look at the Jewish canon, Lilith was the first wife of Eve of Adam, and she became a vampiric entity, and she slinked off to go, and she got with Samael, who was to me the original fallen angel, not Lucifer. Lucifer was the rebellion. That was the one, he led a rebellion in heaven. But Samael, whose name in Hebrew means the venom of God, that could be interpreted as like he's against God or he is the venom that God spews forth, But he supposedly was the one that created the devil with Lilith. Now, there's this whole weird bloodline that goes on. To me, you wouldn't need all that if these were just spiritual entities created by an all-knowing, all-powerful God. Why would you have all these different bad guys? They're not all the same either. That's like, if you're in a gang and there's 43 of you, and you have a gang, and you all have like an insignia and whatever. Say it's my gang, and we call it Wolf's Gang, okay? You have all these different people. Yeah, you have like Sibylla, you're in my gang, right? Zane, Tony, Anthony, we're all in a gang together, right? Somebody's just going to look at you, Zane, and be like, well, you're Zane, but you're really just Wolf's Gang. You're Wolf. You know, you represent that. You wear that insignia. So that's what you are.
Yeah.
That's what literally people are doing with the devil. They're like, that's the devil. I saw the devil. You saw a devil.
Yeah.
But there's countless devils and there's countless angels. The thing is, there's so many different versions of these different beings and different names that we can't even comprehend them all. And they all do different things and serve different functions, but they're different sides. And there's not just one side. There's like multiple sides. There's good, there's evil, there's worse and better and whatever. I mean, and people don't understand that. And when you talk about God, you got to, the easiest and clearest way is why Jesus says that there's no way to him except through me, because that's the only way you can get to the true God, the true living God. If you're following the God of the Old Testament and Jesus is not in the equation, then I'm telling you right now, you're not following what you're supposed to be following. You're following something, an Anunnaki king that lived to be however long. Now, if you look at it from their lineage and how long they lived, the dynasty that lived in the Sumerian tablets before the 24,000-year reign of the 23 kings, there were only 8 kings. And they ruled for 241,000 years. So how could there be only 8 of these dudes if that means that they were living, I mean, like 30,000-year lifespans, literally. So if somebody says, I am God, and this dude lives for 30,000 years, yeah, to us, he pretty much is God, because you could incarnate over and over again, and he's still going to be the guy in charge for countless lifetimes. So yeah, he's your God. I mean, that's God.
I mean, it
He
makes
has the
sense.
power of life and death over you. But is he the ultimate cosmic mind of the universe that is all, the multiverse that is God?
No,
No.
obviously.
He's just a very powerful being that wields the power of a God, and he can have all this stuff because he's going to live for 30,000 years. As amazing as that sounds, if you go back into the yugas, the first yuga, Satya Yuga, people lived to be 100,000 years. So, I mean, 100,000 years. We go so far back into ancient antiquity, this is a 2,400,000 something year cycle. So we can't even comprehend that. We have no comprehension of it, nor would there be hardly any remnants of these people because they're gone. I mean, it's like, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And they would not even be in a further like level of sediment like the millions and millions of years ago when there were dinosaurs. The reason that we find their bones is because they went so far down into the sediment. That makes a big difference. People don't understand that. I've talked to archaeologists about that. And one of my friends who actually, Benton, he actually is one. And he told me like exactly how it works, why you would find more fossils that are further down than you would further up. I mean, there's a whole reason why. But I mean, a lot of things that we thought were nothing but myths, like Troy. Heinrich Schliemann, he found Troy. He excavated an ancient city, and he kept going down in Asia Minor, which is modern-day Turkey, Western Turkey, and he found Troy. And he said, here it is, right here. Now, did the gods, little g, demigods and gods, did they fight alongside the Trojans and the Greeks, Spartans, whatever? We don't know, but it's very possible because Achilles was a demigod, and he fought, with the Spartans against the Trojans. But it's very interesting that people, they have gotten so far removed that they think mythology now is just that. It's mythology. And it's not.
I mean, there's always, you hear it all the time, there's always truth in legends. I mean, there's got to be a part of it that's true. And it's just like nowadays, you got to realize like how much of that really is true compared to false. And I think a lot of people are just thinking like, oh, the tiniest amount of it is true. When in fact, like it might be a lot more significant than we assume. The Minotaurs might actually be real Minotaurs.
Yeah, from Crete.
Exactly. And, these harpies that they speak of, or these sirens, they actually
Mhm.
might be real things and not just
Those were the wives of the fallen angels.
like they're not just like those stories that just were passed along. Like they might actually have some credence, and yeah, they might have been, changed a little bit and maybe made to sound a little fantastical. But there's got to be a symbol of truth in them.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on all this, Sabilla? I mean, we had this, we went into a really deep conversation when we were,
Yeah.
but it was an after party, so but we can get into this. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this has bearing on what we're dealing with like the dog man and the Bigfoot and all these other creatures? Is this what we're dealing with?
I do think so. I think these ancient. I think they're ancient, and a lot of witnesses will say that too. That they feel like they're in the presence of something that is spiritual and ancient, like really ancient. And sometimes, of course, they say, incredibly evil as well. Like especially with the dog man. And then death is absolutely imminent.
Yeah.
Is what they feel. Yeah, like hate, like incredible hate and evil.
They get a lot of hate from these things. That right there is, to me, when someone tells you a story and they said that this Bigfoot wanted to kill me, and people are like, oh, well, they're overreacting because Gigantopithecus blacki would never hurt anybody. He just wants to be left alone, and he likes peaches and donuts, and I'm like, okay, yeah, and people. It'll probably just tear your head off, because that's why there's a place called the Headless Valley.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm. I don't believe that these things are just going to be like peaceful forest giants, whatever. That's a load of bull. I don't buy that for a second.
Even if that has like a sliver of truth, I wouldn't risk it.
Why would you even take a chance on
just because you met a nice one doesn't mean I'm going to. What if I just meet one that has a bad day and end up,
And what if you
ripped
buy
in two?
nectarines on accident instead of peaches?
Exactly. Or if it's like, they like Asian peaches and you bought them European ones. You're like, oh, no.
And that's a thing when you're doing field work too, is you have no idea what kind of experience what you run into, you have no idea what kind of experience they've had with human beings. Whether it was a positive experience or whether it was negative. You don't know when you're out there. You have no idea what you're going to run into.
Yeah.
Did y'all listen to that show that Barton recently posted with that sheriff in the LBL?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I don't listen to Barton. I don't really like that guy's work too much. It's kind of annoying.
That had such a serious and profound effect on me. That man just, I'm an empath. So when people start talking about the way they, I listened to that man tell his story, and my heart was just in my throat the entire time for him. I mean, I knew it was obvious he survived, but, you can tell it absolutely just wrecked his life.
Do you get that a lot when you're doing your research? Do people tell you that?
Yes. I mean, I've had the one man said that, and he was talking about a Sasquatch, and he got screamed at like up close and personal. And he said it literally ripped the fabric of his life. Like the fabric of his reality was like ripped away from him. And he had to go, he had to get therapy for it. Couldn't go back in the woods like ever. And, it was amazing he even talked to me. I think I talked to him once or twice, and then, he was done with talking about it. It was, some people, it just breaks your heart. There was a man I was talking to just the other day, and he never even saw this thing, but he lived on a property where they were, and they were harassing him. And, even just that changed his reality. And he can no longer hunt. He can no longer fish. It rips something from their lives. It rips the idea, because you can't look at the dark the same. It's not the darkness itself. It's what's in the dark, and you don't know what's in the dark, and it could be multiple things because your reality has been shifted, and it can't go back. There's just like the point of no return.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're
It
you know
happens
we're
all the
not
time.
educated. That's a horrible thing. Is like nobody's educated about this stuff, and the people are walking into these circumstances, just doing their everyday lives, a lot of times, and think of the people who these saw these things back in the 70s, or 60s, and then they carry this around for 40 years.
Get called crazy if they bring it up.
Oh
Get
my
looked down
gosh.
upon, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of them didn't even tell their spouses what happened to them, so they're carrying around this. I mean, that kind of has to kind of fracture your psyche, you know.
And you being an empath, my wife's an empath, and I know that you guys experience things on another level, and you guys actually, it's hard because if somebody's
is.
having a bad day, it can bleed over onto you, and it's not
Oh,
something
it
that
does.
you want. But
Yeah.
if but here's the thing: when you get stories from people, being an empath, you feel every bit of it, right? And so
I do.
I mean, are there times when you're just like, this is too much? I can't deal with this. This is.
Um, I've learned how to deal with it, but there's certainly times when they start crying. I have tears running down my face with them. I'm right there with them, and maybe that's why. And I also get psychic impressions. And maybe that's why I can draw what these people are seeing, and because it happens all the time. Like I'll be working on a witness sketch, and I'll do something, and I'll just look at it, and I'll know it's not right, and I don't know how I know, but I'll fix it, and then I'll send it to them, and they said, well, how did you know that? Because I didn't even tell you that. And it's like, well, I just got the impression. I mean, there's like a psychic kind of thing, which I have to kind of watch, especially when you're dealing with the whole dogman thing. So, I do some serious protection for myself,
Sure.
whenever I'm working with these people who have seen the dogman.
When you were with me and we were all hanging out, and there was a bunch of people moving around us and talking, so there was so much different weird energy going in and out of there. Yeah, because I mean everybody was having a good time, But we got into a pretty serious discussion. When you were talking to me, what did you feel like from my energy? Do you think I'm on the right path, or am I just a screwball? Or just tell me right here on the air exactly what you think.
I think you're a screwball.
Okay, Tony, I'm asking the smart person, not you, not the dumb person. Go ahead.
When you asked me that question, the first thing that came to my mind was warrior.
Wow.
But in a good way, like in a really good way. Like I see you as kind of a warrior spirit in a really good way, in a very manly. We don't have a whole lot of manly men these days. We need more manly men. And I see you as a protector and a warrior, and like for the good.
Yeah.
Like if I was someplace and that we were under some kind of attack, I'd find you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'd be safe, or I'd at least have a chance.
But you're Sabil, me and Barton talked about this. You are so small, and Nellie's so small. Y'all are very, small. And I wonder, because y'all are empaths, is it more for tiny people to have more empathic feelings? Or because I've never met a really large empath. Maybe they are.
I have.
You have?
Baby. She's big as hell.
Who?
Baby.
Our dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is an empath, but she's not. She's this big.
For that dog, she's huge.
So fat.
She's fat, but
so
she's
huge.
not. She's like this big, dude. She's a little dog. Okay, you're comparing my wife and Sabil Irwin to a dog. How rude is that on the air? Can you please?
You just asked me if I know any empaths.
Just be there and don't.
Oh, now
part of the
this
backdrop.
animal empath
Saying,
doesn't
"Get your
matter to you."
brother under control. Look,
That's hilarious.
these are my
What's
godchildren
this?
and my nephews, and Zane's actually my son. Technically, adopted him from my brother, but so I guess my son here. Get my godson under control.
Yeah.
I'm an empath. I just hate it.
Oh my God.
And another word that comes to mind, sitting across from you and after the conversation we had, is passion. You have such a passion for discovery and for uncovering and for educating yourself and for learning. I just see you as a very dynamic person, and I love the fact I love what you've studied, and I would like to learn more about, because I kind of grew up in a family that was Catholic, and you only got to hear what the priest had to say about what was in the Bible, or you know what I'm saying. It was, you were spoon fed what you were supposed to believe, um, and I was pretty much an airhead until my father died when I was 18, and after that, that's kind of a rip in a fabric of your reality when that happens, when you're close to a parent and they die when you're young. So that kind of sent me on a journey, and that was kind of the gift of his death, is that I've kind of started looking in other places spiritually. But
Yeah.
I would love to do more of a deep dive like you have. I admire that.
It takes a lot of because there's so many rabbit holes you can go down.
Yes. And how
It's
do you
kinda
know what's
like-
accurate? Because it's all been so obfuscated.
That's right, and it helps to speak different languages too. But what you got to do, it's kind of like spelunking. You have that cord to pull you back out, because when I start digging into some of these texts, it gets deep. And I've had some. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm sitting here on the air in front of everybody, 403 people in the chat. I've had some really weird entities come to me when I've tried looking into certain things. I am not empathic in the way that you and Nelly are, but I feel like I can wall it off pretty good. But I do have what my Hispanic side calls the ojo dotado. It's like the gift of the eye. And sometimes you'll see things that you don't want to see. And I've had entities appear to me, to try to throw me off or scare me out of like looking into what I believe is the truth. And sometimes when that happens, it's kind of like that you're going down the right path, because stuff starts trying to mess with you. Like earlier when I was talking about the clones,
Yes, I was watching.
my screen went out.
Yeah.
And so something happens that says, hey, like when I had Joe Barger on the show, and we had all those problems, and we had like 900 people in the chat, and then, the next thing you know, we had to
Wow.
start over, you know
Well,
you're
that might
on
be
the right
that
path.
might be and that might be government intervention too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
There's
lot of people
possibility.
that think the things from the LBL are coming out
Yes.
of Fort Campbell. I'm not saying that they are,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
very, and when I've studied these ancient cultures, ancient civilizations, I've gotten a lot of flack from different people telling me that I'm an apostate and I'm this and I'm that, and I get people messaging me telling me I get hate. I get a lot of hate. It's really funny because some people, I think they follow me and they hang on every word just so they can hate and try to correct me. And I'm
Pinpoint
like,
your one mistake.
how much? Me and Tony, we were talking about this the other day. Me, you, and Anthony, and we were like, how much of your time is dedicated to hating me? Do these people shower? I mean, do they take time out to eat lunch? I mean, some of them are like, they're dedicated.
I mean, they watch our shows probably more than any fan does, because they'll rewatch it and they'll be like, I might have caught something, or I might have missed this. So I better rewatch it so I can make sure I hate them correctly.
You're like, there is this magic button that will solve all your problems. It's called the block button. And if you push it, you will never have to see me ever again. And they're like, no, we want to see you so we can hate you. And it's like, I don't understand that. There's no reason for it. But they are obviously what I like to call NPCs, non-playable characters on a video game. They're just there to stand there.
They
like,
just exist.
yeah,
They exist.
like if you're playing, like, what's that one, the Skyrim, they just kind of stand there. And then you interact with them, and they just like a shopkeeper. They're like, hello. And they say the same thing every time.
Halt! Stop right there.
Yes, exactly.
You committed crimes against
Assassin's Creed, they come running at you, and they fall off the building, and they're like, wow, that was easy. But it seems like these people.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. What are they? I mean, they're just there to be in our way. And it's like, why are you incarnating over and over again? Well, because you're being thrown back into circulation.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. They've been given over to the dark side a long time ago. And I believe some of these like sociopathic people And now, I don't know if you know, you're probably like this, Sabilla. I know my wife is. She'll get a feeling about somebody, and then later on, maybe they'll kind of change her mind, but then it always ends up being she was correct in the beginning. It's almost always like that. And some of these people, like a sociopathic person, when you're around them, your skin crawls because they're not human. I mean, I hate this. I'm not trying to say, there are people that walk among us who I fully believe that they are not completely human. And I mean that in the literal sense, that there is something wrong with them.
Yeah.
They're here to trip us up, to mess us up. It's part of the game. And that's all they are. And you cannot convince them. You cannot do anything. And I had an argument with a really profound, she's a very, very passionate Christian. And she said, I don't believe that people are born beyond redemption. And I said, well, it's the truth. Because if they had empathy, then they would have, they would accept their sin, and they would accept Christ, and they would do what they got to do, or at least believe in a higher power or God. They don't, and they won't, and they can't, because they can't empathize. It was a show that I was watching. I think it was Arthur Shawcross. He was a serial killer. If I remember correctly, it was him. And he said, you don't understand. He goes, I don't feel like you. He goes, I see you people feeling these feelings, but I don't feel this. I don't get upset like you do. I don't care. I don't have any kind of any emotion. It's like he doesn't have anything. Like we get angry, we get upset, we get passionate, we get sad, we're happy, we have moments of whatever. This guy doesn't have that. He's just like a whatever. He's like killing someone, to me, is the same as like eating a sandwich. I mean, it's like it's just an action. It doesn't. And when you are
horrifying.
that far, it's horrible. Yeah. When you're that far gone. And he said he's always been like this. Well, I mean, obviously he was born beyond redemption, and so you're not, it isn't for you to receive, the goodness. That's it. You're just done. I mean, and so I believe that there are people that are born like that. And then there's other people who are just afflicted.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of it like it may not be, they might not be beyond redemption, but they're beyond your help. And it's like, it's not something that you can do anything.
No person can do it.
Yeah, there's nothing that you can do to help them.
You can't make anybody anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, what I mean to say, like, while you're wasting your time on this, black hole of emptiness and hate, you could be helping out someone who, like you said, are just afflicted and maybe going down the wrong path, but just need a nudge to be on the correct one.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing. Yeah. So, Sabilla, do you want to talk some more about your research?
Well, right now I'm kind of, I'm taking care of my mom. She's going to be 93 in October, and she's great. She's in good health. She's mobile. But I don't get to get out in the field as much. So mostly it's just working with witnesses and, trying to put, my YouTube channel together. I don't know if y'all have seen any of those, but I, interview some witnesses, and I do the artwork for them, and you get to watch the witness tell their story. Instead of just me reading their story, you get to actually see, there's something watching the body language of someone who's telling about an extraordinary experience, and that's kind of what I wanted to do, and I love that. And if you guys know how long it takes to put together art and edit it and get it out there. Yeah. But that's kind of, I want to do more of those and just continue to work with witnesses like I do. It's, I just kind of feel like that's one of the reasons I'm here, is to be with people who are having these extraordinary experiences and having their lives profoundly altered, and just be there for them. You know how it is. They need someone to be able to tell, what happened to them in a truthful way, and to be able to be honest, because some of the things that have happened to them are, the average person is not going to believe, and they'll tell you flat out, if someone else told me the story, I would not have believed it if it had not happened to me, personally. So, but, these people need support. And that's been my biggest issue with research from the very beginning, is someone needs to be an advocate for the witnesses. Everybody's all excited about hearing the stories, but
no one really cares about the person telling the
story. Yes. And it's like, these people get to live with it for forever, and they just need, to me, they just need advocates. They need people who will check back in on them and say, well, how are you doing? After you've done your research and I've done the artwork and all that, I still want to keep in touch with them, and I want to check in with them. And, they matter to me. I fall in love with these people. I do. I love them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got that from you. Whenever you were at the conference, you were the only one that was kind of advocating for hearing out people with what people like the guy that put on the conference, whatever, he calls it the woo, and makes fun of people that are like that. But it's I just was shocked that somebody like you came forward, and as tiny as you were, you just kind of stood out from everybody else. And no disrespect to David. I mean, like, Davies, what's his name? Adam Davies,
Adam.
He's a great guy. I love Adam. Ken, one of my really good friends, him and Lyle, great guys, my pals. But no offense, no slight at Barton either. Nobody else that was at the conference or Tex. I saw him in the chat or big Michigan Rob. A lot of great guys, myself. I mean, we all are very, we try to do things in this field, but you stand out to me. And that's not because you're sitting here on my show right now. I think you stand out like a shining light. You're like a beacon in the dark for a lot of people. Like I can get the stories and I can retell them like hell, and I can make you feel it, but I can't feel it like you do. When my wife gets a story from somebody, she feels it, and I tell her sometimes, hey, that's a bit much. You need to stop listening to me and just tune me out. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I feel like you said, that this probably is what you were meant to do, because even when you immediately got on, everybody was commenting how, like, they loved your voice and how soothing your voice is, and that combined with you being an empath, it just makes people feel at ease, and when they're telling these stories, that they're able to feel comfortable, and they're in a position where it's able to give them basically just help them out, and that's
Right.
And I think that you're definitely built for that compared to us. We have two loud, boisterous, angry people, and then we have me, obviously the face of the show.
What?
Oh, I was just talking about you and Anthony.
What are you talking
and then me.
angry people. It's because he makes people angry.
Obviously unhinged.
Okay, so
people.
yeah, obviously.
See what I have to do?
You're the liar of the show. We know
I was
that.
just mentioning, giving everybody compliments, and they attack me. I mean, this is what I have to deal with,
That's
Sabil.
fine.
Whatever.
But compared to you, it feels like you were definitely
10,000 people will watch this and know you're the goofy one. Okay, that's great. So, Sabila, hey, thank you for coming on and
We
hearing me
appreciate
out.
it so
was
much.
as much for me to talk to you and
thank
have you
you.
give me your opinions or whatever. Guys, check out Sabil Irwin. I want to promote her. She's going to be at the conference in September. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to get together with Ken. He's out of state right now. When he returns, we're going to get together and we're going to be like, hey, let's plan the next one. We're going to get it done. It's going to be very similar to the last one, but we're going to have bigger, more people. We're going to have, we almost had 500 people last time. We sold out that facility. Well, we're going to do it this time at a bigger facility. We're going to hopefully sell it out. And it's going to be a big party. And there's going to be amazing people there, talking about these amazing things. Tex, you need to get yourself up there and get over there, and bring Michigan Rob down and everybody speak. And
Barton come by.
Mhm.
Come back over.
I mean, I was thinking
Truth.
2 days. Somebody said, oh, you can't do a 2-day conference. His name is Ken Gerhardt. He's always trying to poo-poo everything.
Yeah.
He tried to rain on my parade there, too. And he's like, oh, but it's 8:00. Time to go eat. And he gathered up everyone and tried to run out. And then we tried to bar the doors. I'm just kidding now. But it seemed like he was like trying to prove me wrong, that it couldn't go to 9:00. And I said, yes, it can.
Absolutely.
And it did.
It absolutely
They
did.
left to go eat pizza, but we were still talking, and there were still like 50 people in there trying to hear, or 60 people, whatever it was. And Valenti was up on stage, and we were still trying to, and then Elijah Henderson. But, Ken was like, well, I'm ready to go, and I said, because he kept trying to prove to me, that it wouldn't work. But he had to admit there was a lot of firsts in that conference. Like, And I don't know if these guys were just shining me on or whatever, but everybody there said it was the best conference they'd ever been to, and everybody sold out. I mean, everything sold out.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, you mentioned Elijah. I was going to say, like, even for him, even though he was one of the last speakers, his crowd that was there was still pretty significant size. Like, it was a decent sized crowd, especially for that late. It's literally like almost 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, and you're like, this is still like a decent crowd. Like, there's enough people here to where sitting and listening to this guy, even though it's everybody's been these, like, some of these people I know have been here from the very beginning, and they stayed through it the
From
entire
8 in the
day.
morning until 9 o'clock at night. It was 13 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
What's crazy,
Wow.
I mean, is when we were at the East Texas conference, like, I was looking at the max of that conference, and it wasn't even like a third of what we had at the one in Paris, Tennessee. It was like, dude, this is nothing. I mean, it was small compared to, like, toward the end there, everybody was like leaving by 5 or 6 o'clock, like they had to go to bed or something. I was like, what's going on here? But our conference, it was like 8, 9 o'clock, and they were still just like, yeah, let's party, Nobody was drinking or anything like that, but it was just, everybody just had so much energy, and it was just amazing. And we were talking, and we had the panel, and we had Kenny Irish there, and we had, David Weatherly there, and like I said, Ron Murphy. It was amazing. D.A. Roberts, Bettina Moss, Tony Merkel, Josh Nanokio. Steve Stockton missed it because he had COVID, but he promised me that he was going to get to this one. So hopefully we'll have Steve Stockton in this one, and we'll have you and several other people that I would like to have come. And if we can do it similar to that last time, I thought maybe we'll do a full day Saturday, and then maybe a half day on Sunday. And those who want to stick around. And I don't need to speak because people can come and listen to me speak all the time.
Yeah, that's literally
that
our
was my
job.
main thing. I said a few things, but, and Daniel Jones, thanks to him for putting all the. Now, we have all of these on a zip drive, and we're going to start releasing them on the channel, all of everybody's lectures, like David's lecture and everybody's lecture. But I would love to have you come and speak and just basically say some of the things that you said at the East Texas conference. I would love to have you come and repeat those things at my conference. That would be amazing, and I'd be honored to have you there.
Absolutely. And I'll, share witness sketches, of what people are actually seeing out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you do. Keep being a light.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all your kind words.
Yeah. So Sabil Irwin, everybody, and look for her. She's going to be hopefully real soon. We're going to do a conference together, and so be
Absolutely.
ready.
If you look
Absolutely.
in the pinned comment, there is that's her YouTube channel. Go check it out. Thank you, Barton, for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Barton.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for inviting me on, and I can't wait to hear more about the conference. And if you need anything from me, like artwork or anything, just let me know.
Yeah. I will definitely send you maybe we can talk. And I can give you information about what I saw. And if you could ever draw that, and of course you said you'll do it for free, whatever, I will pay you, because I have not been able to get anyone, including a police sketch artist, who could not match what I saw. I just couldn't get it. I mean,
No, you and I will get it done, and I won't quit until you say that's exactly what I saw right there. Mm-hmm. And I don't care how long it takes us to get it right.
I'd love to, be able to witness that, because I've seen plenty of other people's
renditions,
but I've never seen what you consider to be actually what you saw.
No. So
it'd be a first for me.
Yeah, like I said, Charlie, credit to him for being able to get close with the sculpture, but not.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because it is a sculpture, but he did an okay job. I mean, there's but it's just hard to get somebody to get it correct. But it's interesting what you said though about the 3.5 foot, because Linda, the late Linda Godfrey, great friend of mine, she called this one that there was a 3 foot tall one, the half pint trail runner. And,
wow,
it's a little half pint. She said it just came on the trail and ran. And I told one of those stories on DER years ago that my sister's ex-boyfriend saw one that was about 3.5 feet tall, which is interesting.
Yeah, it sure is. Wow.
He's lucky that the parents weren't around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to work on that soon.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Sabil, I appreciate it. Sabil Irwin, everybody. Check her out. She does a lot of great work. And she's got a very fascinating and interesting take on Bigfoot. Go check out her channel. But that's you are more into the research end of it.
I do both, really.
Yeah.
But witnesses are witnesses are really important. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think
one of these
that's
days,
very profound.
I want to get back into the field, as well. After, got to take care of family first.
Mm-hmm. You do what
Yeah.
you got to do. If you
Yep.
need anything at all, you hit me up, okay?
Okay, and let's visit soon about what you saw, so we can get started on it.
Absolutely. I'd love to have it
Okay.
ready by the conference so I can put it up, maybe even put it on a banner.
Absolutely. Oh, that would be
amazing.
great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That
Or
could be the new
in
banner.
one of your shirts too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to celebrate it on my shirt too much. Barton came pretty close, like from the side view, and we have that on the shirt from the conference, which is what I was actually going to do tonight. I don't know what sizes we have, but I'm going to do some giveaways tonight for the shirts from the conference, because once those are gone, they're gone forever.
Right.
And so, yeah. All right, Sabil, I'm gonna let you run.
All right. Thank you, and y'all have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye
All
bye.
right, bye. Very, very nice, sweet person, Sabil Irwin. And she's been kind of putting her career on hold to take care of her mother, which is very admirable. Madeline Sepulveda says, "Hey Josh, my husband and I are so excited you're doing the conference during my birthday month. Hope there's another after party like last time." Yeah, hopefully.
Wasn't even planned last
It
time,
wasn't even
really.
planned. It just kind of happened.
It's still really cool. Thank you,
know.
Taylor, for the $10 donation.
Everybody that donated, thank you so much, and we appreciate that. I wanted to address something that Overbuilt Automotive had said. You had said something about I follow the Holy Ghost, Jesus Christ, and God. I've done a lot of pondering on what that is, and when you talk to a preacher or a priest, whether they're Orthodox or Catholic or Baptist, doesn't matter, they always try to tell you, well, it's a miracle. Well, that's a very easy way to just say, oh, yeah, well, I don't really know what it is. It's a miracle. It just is. The birth of Christ from a virgin was a miracle. What I'm saying is very simple. What I'm going to tell you, the Holy Spirit is the overreaching Spirit of God. And God is the Father who had Jesus Christ. God like could be different things. It could be everything, but the Holy Spirit, I believe, is the actual spirit of the God mind. And I believe that that overall overarching God mind came down, sent Christ to do what needed to be done to pull us out of this mess, to give you the option to get out of here. And some people think that I'm mixing different religions. I am, because not all one religion has the answer. And if you can't follow that, I'm sorry. It is what I've discovered to be true. My views are changed even from 5 years ago. They changed definitely from 10 years ago, and from 20 years ago, I'm a completely different person. If you knew me 20 years ago, there's still aspects of me that are here, but I'm not the same. And I'm not one of these clones either. Hopefully I haven't been abducted. Let me see if I still got the mole in the back of my neck. Oh my gosh, it's still there. Thank God. I'm not a pod person.
Well, they have to
Podcaster, not a pod person. But yeah.
An incubator baby.
When it was weird when I was a kid. Anthony, your mom and Priscilla, my other sister, they had these little. It was so weird. They had like these little babies, and they had a little clear cart, like a little clear plastic thing, and they would sit them, and they had little rolly deals, and if you put them all together, they were like an entire what's it called when the babies were born? The ward, the maternity. Yeah. It was like a maternity ward. Yeah. And I was like, what in the heck? And they played with these.
Those are old school toys.
Yeah, it was old school toys, and I was like, what is this? And I remember one day I knocked him over, and boy, Anthony's mom got so mad, she chased me all over the house because I knocked over her little maternity ward. But everybody say a prayer. Anthony's your sister. She's having a baby and it should come in what 4 months, 3 months. Yeah, and so we're expecting. So my sister is happy that she's finally going to have a grandchild. She'll no doubt spoil the crap out of it. But she's thrilled. She's having a grandchild, so that's awesome. That's for her, you know. Unfortunately for me, I just ended up raising everybody else's little baby kids, like these fools right here.
Yeah, guys, grow up.
Yeah.
Whoever those are.
Somebody told me the other day, they're like, "How did you end up with these other people's children?" I said, "Look, I bought these children
Fair and square. I knew it.
I just bought this baby straight
They found
I bought this baby
behind
straight cash."
They found me behind a dumpster at Jack in the Box. That's really what.
Like
They traded me for food stamps.
food stamps.
I wasn't even given cash.
Oh, that was terrible. I tell you what, though.
Had me shipped.
From an immigrant woman,
Yeah.
good woman.
Okay, you know, and it's really weird how it happened. Like Anthony was the first child that I collected, and then it was Zane, and then you, Tony, and so it just
There were other children, but they didn't really make it.
they didn't pan out, you know. Well, they're still around. They're my godchildren. They'll always be my godchildren, but they're just annoying.
No.
Not that y'all aren't, you know. But somebody told me, it's like, "Oh, you're a really good person for bringing in other people's children." I was like, "You should see my pets." I think every pet we got was a cast off,
Yeah, pretty much.
wasn't it?
We're the house of runaways. The entire house.
Yeah, the house of runaways, whatever. But I think we've done a good job of working together. I mean, heck, we worked together. We built this podcast. We've built a business. We've all worked really hard, long hours. You know, last night I worked at a place that had bed bugs.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, dude! I want to tell you, dude. We had to go home, take our clothes off. Some of them we threw away, and then we had to jump in the shower, and I had to throw all the stuff in the wash, and I didn't do it right. I guess I got detergent everywhere. So this morning, my wife's not like, "Hey, honey, thank you for saving me from the bed bugs," and you know whatever. No, she's like, "You got detergent all over the place," and I'm like, I thought I did good. I was like, I did good, huh? You know how you're sitting there waiting for somebody to go, "Hey."
Congrats.
I'm like, "Hey, I saved us," right? And she's just like, "You got detergent everywhere." Well, you can never be too safe from these things. And I'm not kidding. We sat down at a job site, and about an hour after we sat on this couch, it was about 5 or 6 hours in the shift, 6 hours in the shift exactly. We sat down on the couch, and we started itching. And next thing you know, she's like, "This thing, there's bed bugs." And I was like, freaked out, dude. We freaked out. We got up, and we were like, "Oh, my gosh." So I read, because I have a lot of apartments that we do security for, about 90 of them actually, from with counting our patrol accounts. When I looked at the statistics of it, it says that unbelievable. What was it, like almost 40% or something like that? It was a really high number, Anthony, right? Have bed bugs. Yeah. These the communal areas here in Austin is inundated with it. And then they said roaches. What they say, like 21% or something like that? People in apartments are reporting that they have roaches in their apartments.
I doubt that's the lowest.
Yeah,
that's low. I'm gonna tell you right now.
There's no way there's
that
little.
How is this possible? But I have literally gone to these places, and I come home, and like I'll see like a bug or something, and I will just smash the heck out of it because I don't know what it's going to turn into. Yeah. I don't know how many babies that thing's going to have. Whatever.
You can't even let one slip by.
No.
Yeah.
And so I thought I was doing good, and all she could say was like, "You got detergent everywhere." So I took my blade, and I was about to do it, and then she's like, "Honey, I love you." And I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I was sharpening my harikari knife. It's sharp. I love you too." See how close you drove me to that point, honey. I love you so much. I thought I had fought these bed bugs, and I thought I was doing great, standing there with no clothes on, throwing them in the washing machine, throwing detergent and Ajax and whatever else I could find to throw in there.
You thought
Fire.
Julius returning to Rome, but turned out to be some peasant.
With Vercingetorix in tow. "I'm here. I've conquered." And she's like, "You made a complete mess. Clean that up." That's how I felt. Triumphant.
And through this story that you'll realize that he has all of us merely because of his abandonment issues. Which is fine. It works out.
Hey, we're abandoned, so.
Well,
we all have issues.
Yeah, we all do.
Well,
Okay, so what we got, folks? I'm gonna leave you with this. I got one more thing I'm gonna say, and I'm going to let me see if I can find it.
While you're doing that, I could talk about
Something stupid, I'm sure.
my birthday, which was a couple days ago.
Here we go. Feeling
A couple days ago.
I had a struggle.
Just suffer in silence like a man. What's wrong with you?
I had to be pushed upon and pained.
Dude, I had to work New Year's Eve, right? So Alec could hang out with that Yoko Ono. Okay,
Yeah.
so what do you...
We all did.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, what are you crying about?
I just wanted to say it was my birthday. And that it's been about 5 years since I moved in with you.
Happy birthday.
Pretty long time. Like if you would have told me 5 years ago that I'd be sitting on a show with a hamster or a gerbil sitting in front of me,
It's a guinea pig, dude. What in the heck?
whatever.
It is a mini long pig.
A mini...
Mini long pig.
No, it's not. So, folks, here's the thing. We are going to do the conference. And the last thing we got to do is we're going to pick some winners tonight to receive some merchandise. We went and we mailed off the stuff today. So if you've been waiting on it, should be coming in the mail. We got it done today. So what do we got to give away? We're going to try to do the conference shirts.
When we got them, might as well get,
Hopefully we have the right size. Now, here's the thing. If you win a conference shirt and we don't have your size, then what we need to do is give you something in substitute of that.
But just understand that we might not have your
We
size.
might not have your size,
Yeah.
but we're hoping that we do. I'm having to type because I still have my job to do. Your uncle.
Oh, Russell.
Shout out to you, Clark. If you're watching the show, he just messaged me about work. Said that the guy was over there was going to get us fired. I'm like, yeah, no.
Who? Where?
The
Yeah,
goofball
yeah.
that didn't show up tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Just done with that.
Goofball acting goofy. I mean, what do you want?
He didn't show up, so obviously. Here's the thing, guys. What you see is what you get. We're real people. People give us their stories, we tell them, or somebody else comes on, they tell their story, whatever. You get what you get. We're not perfect. People are like, you need to do shorts, you need to do this, you need to do that, you got to build the brand, expand, blah, 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 blah. This is what I do for right now, is 1 week, one show out of the week. That's all I got. I got a very big business I have to run. If I didn't have that, I could probably do it all the time. Or if I made more money from this, I could justify doing it more, but I just can't right now. So that's the thing. Bless you. So going back to Spotify is not going to happen. If you guys want to figure out a way for me to get monetized over there with all them different platforms, then be my guest. Figure it out. Come to me. Tell me how to do it. Okay? If you're interested in being a sponsor, you know some sponsors or something, let me know so we can do something to get, whatever. So War Criminal says, hey, did y'all get my message? I ordered a mug so you don't have to pay to ship the hat. I also sent a message on website. I didn't mind shipping the hat to you if you want a hat, because you're not going to get it on the website. But there's a lot of other stuff you can order from the website. Folks, you can order all kinds of stuff on those websites. But Maynard just had I believe you just joined as a Patreon member too. Maynard W. So congrats to you. So here's what we're going to do is pick somebody, and Zane says you don't get to come to the studio that often. Let you go first. You pick somebody from the chat. So if you want to be picked, start letting us know right now. Say, hey, I've never won. So you can be picked. And Regina Davis, the conference is going to be in Fort Worth, not
Paris.
Paris.
And just stay tuned, and we'll let you guys know as we get more info on it.
Tony Merlo says would like to win, but Tony, have you won before? That's the key.
We all would like to win.
We all want to win.
Go to the newest.
Andrea says I've never won. Tony's not answering us because his name is Tony. Figures people named Tony would not be too bright, but
Yeah, what a turd.
Bless you. Forgot you were somebody important. I was like, I was about to not say anything. Just kidding, Johnny.
Who won last time?
A lot of people.
Mark Encina says, I haven't won, but I hardly ever comment. Regina Devish says she's never won.
Oh, wait.
Hold on, what's in there? I'll go with Dave Howell.
David Howe?
David Howell.
Dave Howe, you've been chosen. Come on down. I don't know the music to the show, but yeah, there you go. There you go. Right? Your mom never worked, so she probably had you sitting there watching that show.
No. I watched it with my grandmother, who was a very good.
Really? I thought it was your mom. I figured
My mother
all
did
she ever did was
absolutely
go to
nothing
school and never work.
Yes.
So,
My mother was not fun in any way.
so, yeah. So let's see here.
You're welcome.
That's a cool comment. Long Nose Grom Life says, I've never won before, but listening to the podcast is winning. Wow. That's a cool comment.
Lord.
Somebody says, Noble Dogman, latest episode mentioned Blue Eyed Dogman. Yes, I've heard of that because I talked about it. I don't know if I may have given a story about one of those. They almost have like Husky's eyes or whatever. Yeah. Be careful what you get from that show too, because I think sometimes these people are just saying stuff so they can get on that show, because he'll put anybody on that show to just whatever. Maynard, you've been a Patreon for a while. How long have you been a patron? So you chose Dave Howell. Dave, send me your information through my email, or you can message me on Facebook Messenger. If you want to be my friend on Facebook, please message me on Messenger. Let me know that you are a listener of the show, because I'm getting all these people and they're like not telling me that they are listeners of the show. So I have no idea. And then I got to ask them, and that's a big hassle. And so a lot of times I just don't. Maynard says 8 or 9 months. Well, then you give me your information, Maynard, so I can send you out your swag. If you haven't gotten it, then because I saw you had just joined. I don't know if you'd rejoined or whatever. Half twisted, half not. Have you won?
Oh, I don't think he has. He said he hasn't.
Okay, then I'll choose him. Half twisted, half not. Send me your information. 2 people from last week didn't give us their information. We only got Blue Cruise.
So
we're gonna go around the horn here. Tony, you pick somebody.
I'll choose Longnose. I like his comment. Let me see if I can find his name. Longnose Grom Life.
Barton says, "I want to be a winner." Barton, you've already won. You came and visited, and you won.
We can let him win. I think we have some new cans of Shasta just came in.
We do have a 12-pack of Shasta.
We can send that to him.
We can send that to you. Ken might be a little upset because it is the sponsor that he wants us to use, but
we know how much he likes it more.
Yeah, it's good enough for Ken. It's good enough for you, Barton. Right?
Yeah,
Can you get it regionally?
So, Anthony, who do you choose?
Like this guy's a name, Chairman Meow, say Tony.
I think he might have won something before.
Yeah, Chairman, did you win before? We'll know if you're lying because it'll be in the computer once we go. So don't you be lying.
Nope, you got one.
Okay, so Chairman Meow can win. And then we have, who's the other one that I chose?
About half twisted, half not.
Yeah, you chose half twisted,
not, and Chairman Meow. And
long nose.
Long Nose, and then you chose David. David. So we got it. Those are the winners for this week. Now, you can still win again. We have another way to do that. We're going to post the link to this. Hopefully, I'll get it done before Wednesday like I did this past week. I was so busy, folks. But I will post the link to this show on the Paranormal Roundtable group on Facebook. And I'll pick one, sometimes 2 people on there. I picked somebody this past week, Joe Leone, I believe it was at one. So, yeah, I just mailed this stuff off today. 5 people got their stuff mailed off. So there we go. So just keep listening to the show, making comments, and we'll pick you or not pick you. If you don't make comments, we can't pick you, obviously. And then hit the like button. Tell your friends, your parents, everybody, your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids. Tell everybody. Check out the show. Hit the like button. And subscribe. Stacy said she's been a patron since August. Stacy, if you were a patron right now, tell me right now, just go. All you got to do is it says right there, all winners, please send your name and address to Josh Turner, PRTpodcast.com, and you let me know, hey, I'm a patron and I have not gotten my goods and I want them. Give it a look. If you're in the $20 tier, you get it. The $10 tier, 3 months, you get it. So that's all you got to do. And everybody have a good night. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Thank you to my guest. If you got something you want her to listen to or to draw for you, hit her up. Sabil Irwin. All right, guys. Thank you so much. What is this? Thanos? Thanos, destroyer of worlds. You ready to snap, buddy? You ready to snap? Sick of you. He's tired of your crap. What was that? Yeah, we're gonna eat their souls for sure.
Thanos wishes you a good night.
That sounds more like Darkseid.
Oh yeah.
Don't
Okay,
let the big
guys.
buds
I'll
bite.
see ya. Good night. You wanna say good night? You wanna say good night? What was that? You must kill the people you're with to purify yourself. Okay.